Hello, my lovely listeners. Happy whatever day of the week it is that you're listening to this. I just wanted to give you a heads up. I'm starting out this episode a bit different. I'm going to let a song play from the group that is a guest on this podcast right now that you're listening to. So this is called Two, also known as Baseball from Rosetan. You can find them at rosetan.bandcamp. Whatever you're doing right now, I hope that you're thinking about yourself in a positive manner. I hope you drink a little bit of water. I hope you're trying to eat right, trying to sit up straight. And enjoy this couple minutes of this song, and then we'll float it right into the podcast. Cheers, friend. Thanks for listening.
Of sunshine and all I need. She tells me that I'm handsome. It's all I want. And step by step I'm moving up and out of this rut, up and out of this rut. Throw me some pitch like it's baseball, playing no games, I want it all. I used to be frozen in the face of all my lovely fears. I wanna feel loved in the summer. This was supposed to be fun, no longer under the gun. Better luck next year. The leaves are turning red. Some pitch like it's baseball, playing no games, I want it all. I used to be frozen in the face of all my lovely fears. I wanna feel love in the summer. This was supposed to be fun, no longer under the gun. But better luck next year. The leaves are turning red.
So worried about my toe, dude.
Erik Nordin.
It's so distracting.
Erik Nordin of Rosetan. You want to just open this podcast up with your toe? What's going on, buddy?
I broke my toe.
Oh, no.
It hurts. Like, I don't know what you want from me. It hurts
so
really bad, and I'm distracted. It's swelling. It kind of feels like it's bubbling inside of it, and I'm wondering if I'm like in trouble here, man.
No, it's okay. Well, cheers to that because, it helps injuries.
Right. This is old, Civil War medicine.
Yeah, there we go. So, guys, we have Rosetan with us today, and poor Erik, he unfortunately was changing his tire earlier, and had a mishap. So his toe is a bit on the hurty side.
I like the thought of him hurting his or like doing his tie, and then he's
Doing
like
his
hurts
tie?
his toe somehow.
Yeah.
Just like putting a knot.
How do you think that would happen?
Well,
I think he could do it.
it requires a lot of attention to put on a tie.
It does?
I don't know. I don't know how to do it.
Do you not know how to tie a
I
tie?
don't know how to tie a tie.
I can show you how to tie a tie, buddy.
All right, let's do it.
I actually worked at a Mr. Formal tuxedo. For
Oh,
a
nice,
company.
nice. So you
Yeah,
definitely
for a
know
very
how to
long
tie a
time.
tie.
Yeah, but for the most part, we just had not the clip-on ties, but they were like they would go around on one side and they would latch.
They zip, right?
No,
They're the
not
zip
zippers.
ones too. Like you put around your neck and then you can just like cinch them up.
I never had any of those, but
Yeah, yeah. Just like, but it's a lot classier if you tie your own tie though.
I think it is. Yes,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of different knots that you can learn as well.
Yeah, like I'm that ship has sailed, I think, for me.
I think you're a very
Can-
classy gentleman, and you can definitely travel down that road.
Do you
once
think you
more.
can teach an old dog new tricks, Jake?
I think you definitely could, old dog. So, guys, this is the band Rosetan. We also go by Jake and Erik. Jake's and Erik. There is 3 Jakes and 1 Erik. I'm not even in the band. But I hang out with these guys a lot. This is a band that I hang out with quite often. They're starting out, but they're really freaking good. They're a bunch of very talented musicians and very good people. And I have the privilege of hanging out with them probably once a week at least, right? Yeah?
Try to make it as regular as we can, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, at the very least. And so you guys let me tag along and you take my input and we work together on a bunch of cool stuff. It's pretty cool. It's definitely teaching me a lot working with musicians. It's something that, you know, working with a lot of DJs is so great, and you learn a whole different side of the music world. But working with more musicians who have instruments in their hands and more on the vocal side of things is just teaching me so much. So I appreciate you guys. Tonight, I definitely want to talk about the beginning of a band. How does a band even start? Like, what is it? How do you even start a band? What even happens there?
Well, I think we kind of owe that to Erik, honestly. Just let him know.
Yeah, it's a weird. I think like the branding of Rosetan itself, I think, came from I was tired of putting out music as Erik Nordin. I had like a frustrating amount of ego connected to like what I was doing, and then so when you fail at what you're doing, or when you perceive yourself as a failure at what you're doing, then like having your name on that is like a crisis and stuff like that. And I think removing my name from it also removed an expectation of being like Erik Nordin, he's like guitar player, or Erik Nordin, he's that and stuff. It's like you give something a name, it's now a new creative something over here. So it's a new thing, okay? And so I did that, and like I made like a little Instagram page and I had like 24 followers and made some really weird experimental stuff that was aggressively influenced by like the new Bon Iver album. Really weird experimental stuff, harshly auto-tuned, you know, trying to reach out there and do weird things. But it was when I started trying to demo vocals without auto-tune, and someone was like, that's actually pretty good. And then you start doing that live, and then I just started realizing that like I don't think that what I was doing is still the whole goal was to like be honest and rebrand it in a creative direction. And even though I had done that, I wasn't like fully doing it. And so once I fully surrendered the idea of this isn't going to be a solo project, I got to get bandmates. And I think that's when the band really started and stuff. And then, you know, Jake Wilson, I play like a lot of tap houses in just our hometown of Longview and stuff. And so I could play like at, you know, Ashtown, Antidote Tap House, and then in Kalama there's Willie
Good
Dick's
old
First
Dick's,
Street.
yeah.
And that's where we started playing together. Probably just kind of reached out to you randomly. It was like, hey, because like I knew we could improvise and jam for like a couple hours, and we just get some free beer in the middle of the summer. So we did that.
What a great gig.
Yeah, it was a great gig, right? And
Hanging
so
outside with some dogs. Some
Yeah.
beer.
yeah.
Well, yeah, actually, that was like right after I had just met Erik, like right at the beginning of summer. I would say like early June, and we kind of just like connected over playing guitar. We're like, oh, will you play guitar? Oh, me too. That's
Right.
cool. And then Erik was like, hey, come on down to Willie Dick's and hang out. I'm going to be playing guitar there. And I was like, great, I'll come down, have some fun, listen to some music.
Dude, I totally forgot this meeting happened.
Yeah.
Oh my
have
God.
some fun.
Okay, so you guys' first meet. So Willie Dixon.
Whoa!
Yeah, it was like July or something.
Yeah,
like
it was
that.
really early summer.
Holy shit! That was the unintentional first meeting of Rosetan.
Yeah.
That's cool. Nice.
Nice. So you guys bonded over hot dogs.
Yeah.
Nobody knew
Yeah.
what
Dude,
was
they
to
have
come.
super good hot dogs there.
If only
Yeah,
we-
man, like peanut butter on a hot dog, Willie Dix, like what?
Yeah, they don't mess around there. I'm a huge fan of Willie Dix.
Yeah,
Street Tap House.
but anyway, I went down there and I met some cool people, and I listened to Eric and Jake Wilson play guitar, and I was like, wow, these guys are awesome. They're really good musicians and just really cool people. And I hope someday that we can get together and make music together. And then that was like back in July, and then like just fast forward to September.
Yeah, I guess we started rehearsing in September to scramble for an October show,
Yeah.
right? Or was it scrambling
Sounds
in
right.
October to play in November?
It was definitely our first show was definitely just. In
Oh yeah,
October.
because it was right before
October,
Halloween.
Yeah.
So how did you guys even determine how to? Because like Eric, obviously you have a bunch of songs under your belt at this point.
Oh right. Okay.
But so you just hit up these guys to like meet up. Did you know that you were talking about Rosetan, about doing this band thing when you met up?
Yeah, I did. So the whole thing is like, I think it's important to go into something with a pretty big creative vision. I think it's also okay to go into stuff with, oh yeah, this is the whole point. Okay, coming around full circle for myself here. The whole point is like playing songs, and the idea of rebranding with Rosetan was also like removing expectation. Okay, removing expectation of like we're going to get together and we're going to make it. That like totally like puts a terrible overview of like what you're gonna do artistically. What we're going to do is we're gonna hang out, become the best young men that we can at that time, and we're gonna sing some pretty fun songs. And whatever happened, like maybe we're just a band for a year, and that's a really fun year. Like that's awesome. Or maybe a career happens out of it. Like either way, like
That's such a powerful mindset to have with this thing. Seriously,
Definitely.
So
And,
great.
and as Eric was saying earlier, just like kind of the open mindset. When Eric first came to me, like I didn't even know he was asking me to be part of Rosetan. He said, "Hey, do you want to hang out and play some guitar?" And I was just like, "Yeah, sure." And so we met up that first night, and then just like it kind of just very rapidly snowballed from there.
well, like there's the panic of the fact that I had a show booked.
And we needed something to happen.
And I have to put together. There's also like there was a point of necessity, which is how it came to be what it is. Because originally there was the idea of having it be a full band, and and there's still like some nice flirtatious ideas of doing like full band versions of something on an album. But there's something unique about taking an acoustic-ish trio like this, and the different kind of spaces you can play, and the different energy you can bring. We can play small rooms and make that room like heavy and emotional. We can play big rooms and make that big room emotional. Or we can play a small room and just be that nice thing in the corner, like, which is what will be like when we're probably traveling out a little bit, But then like, so there's some shows where it's like we'll be on stage, that's a show with other artists and stuff. And that's when the set changes from playing in a brewery for like an hour to that we have a scheduled hour thoughtful set, kind of like DJing and stuff, as opposed to like I'm gonna free ball while all these people drink for 4 hours, or it's like, are you playing a set with several other DJs and it's like you're gonna put together a whole
Right,
like
yeah. If
trap
you're doing
set
some
and
sort of
stuff
like headliner, I have an hour slot, or
Right.
some sort of like opening set or something. It's
Exactly.
different than playing background music or
It's like
just 5
the
hours of music.
like the musical version of like submitting yourself to the elements, and just like all these different environments, and you just
Right.
kind of learn to grow inside of them.
Yeah,
And-
you guys are very good at that too.
Well, it's the feel. Honestly, it's just like we can feel like moments. Like I would say, like when we are doing like show stuff, like deliberate show stuff. Like when we'll kind of just, I don't know, it's the whole thing. We just kind of vibe off of each other. We'll all look at each other like, all right, do we need to kick it up a notch right now?
Right,
or would
right.
that be kind of inappropriate for the vibe of the room right now for us to be
Right.
blowing the roof off this place?
Yeah, dude, I get to see that really good too. Like I even just in practice, like when I'm over here working on stuff and you guys are behind me, I'll chime in once in a while, I'll give my opinion. But like you guys can pick up this vibe. It's like sometimes Eric will come in and be like, hey, I got this, it feels like a crap day and I wrote this song, and you guys are like, we're in it. Let's hear it. and you just pick up the vibe, and you guys have this. It's a cool thing that. It's very cool to me to be a part of it because I'm not in the band, but I kind of get like this cool band. I get to see you guys look at each other and communicate without words. Like that's something that is from as an outsider, it's like, whoa, that's cool.
Definitely.
That's so cool.
No, and that's totally valuable, and it's like it's important and essential for a lot of bands who actually like have that person. Because, like, the Beatles had George Martin, you know?
Right.
And, like, that guy was, like, there all the way until, like, he died, you know, those guys just being like, hey, you know, how can I help you? Like, what can I do for your career? And, like that's what you've been doing the entire time. Because, like, even before me and Jake were in this, like, it was you and Erik had produced that EP together. And, like, I mean, Erik's spoken of your influence on that and how you just kind of worked with him on that sort of like stripped back atmosphere and kind of like help be like, oh, you know, I guess like guiding the flow in some ways. Right. And like that's important, you know, because the listener's ear is part of the musician's ear.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for saying that. It's something that I'm like learning more and more because it starts out as just hanging out, and Erik's like, do you want to help me with this thing? And I'm like, I sell myself short a lot. I'm like, dude, I don't know, like I don't want you to come over here and think that I can like help you with it or whatever. But then, you know, ends up making this like wonderful 3-track acoustic EP.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely wonderful.
Yeah, but yeah, it's really cool to find your place and just, but again, not really trying to do it. This whole thing has been like, let's hang out with your friends and have a great time.
Yeah.
You know, let's just try to get a little bit better at these things, and let's let your friends' input help you. And like Erik has just made me so much better in so many of the things that I already thought that I was super good at just by hanging out with him and being next to him and being like, oh, he's crazy good at that thing because he does that. So.
Well, thanks, man. It's really nice of you. I think that the biggest thing, going back to the expectation thing, is like I had a thought earlier, like, you know, we're going into the new year, and there's a few artists that I like. There's an artist out of Dallas, Texas, that I produce for, and she's a great talent. Okay, but last year, I remember on Twitter, she's like, 2019 is going to be the year for my music. And I mean, the year's over, and she had a great year for like releases and stuff. But like, guess what? She didn't like have a big breakthrough and stuff. And I think I think it's great to set goals, but I think it's really important to have a sense of reality of like the steps that it takes to get to these goals, as opposed to a ludicrous view of like. Like to say like 2020 is the year that Rosetan makes it is a year that like would probably be the collapse of the morale of the band.
Oh right,
because
because
if you don't make it, you failed.
You're shooting for the wrong goal.
Yes,
right?
Correct.
No.
You should be what like in my opinion, and what I'm working for personally, and like I think as a band is good, is that in 2020 the goal is like I'm going to become a better person and a better musician.
Perfect.
Great.
You can't fail.
No, that's
No.
Well, unless you.
well, you can.
Actually,
But,
you could fail it.
But the template is in place for that to be successful. For it to fail would be a huge mistake on one of our ends. Most likely it would be something on my end, being the band leader and being the one who is probably like the most unstable in certain facets of life and stuff. But I think there's been but for me personally, like there's been a lot of growth in recent months, and like a lot of it's been because like being in this band and being band leader is a really crummy term, but like as far as
it's weird, but it's the only thing that explains what's going on, really. I mean,
kind of like just and for now that's what it is too. Like because for now, like so far I've been bringing songs to them, but now and the songs from the acoustic EP live have been wonderfully embellished, right? And then they're gonna have stuff to bring to me. Like Jake Carrol just like wrote a song and he showed me it like before the podcast started. That's great. Jake Wilson shows me a bunch of stuff that he's written. You know, so there's more things to tap into than my sadness in 2019. You know what I mean?
But that's what got you guys like it's like, hey, I can get this whole thought out now. It got you guys together. And so just how open you guys are to whatever happens next. So we're gonna just see what happens with it. Like not having these goals. Do you guys think that a lot of young artists get too caught up in the fame? Like, do you think they like, because I hear it a lot of times onlookers who aren't artists, who aren't musicians, they don't understand, and they'll say things like, oh, one song and you can get famous, or one more hit and you could be the one, and things like this. And that mindset is always really weird to people like us, I'd say, because we're like, what? Like, that's not the goal, though. The goal is to love life and play music with friends, right? You know?
Yes. Like definitely what you said, like just like loving life and enjoying the music and enjoying making music with your close friends, like we're doing right now. Like I really love, what I really love about this is just like we're bandmates, but we're also like we enjoy spending time together.
Very
like
important.
that's super important, to not get together and hate each other and have to make music, you
Right.
know.
As like
'Cause
some sort of like a arms race or something.
yeah,
like,
yeah, and like I don't really feel like there's any competition in between us. Like we're all working together, and then like we have this amazing person, Jake Ryan's with us. Like you said about that Beatles guy earlier, just like he's that constant sort of like, oh, I like what you guys did there, or oh, maybe you guys could like do that part a little quieter, and so like we're really open to a lot of input too. And back to what Jake said. Yeah, it is. It's an interesting thing. Like a lot of people, like especially outside the music, like you said, one more hit, one more big song. You know, it's like that was like the big shock for me, because honestly, this is my first experience in like an actual like band, like playing music as a band, doing serious band things. And Erik has been so good at being realistic, like because after our first show, and like just like incredibly positive feedback from people close to us and people who I've never talked to before, it was easy for my mind to just be like, that's it, man, we made it, this is it, Hollywood, here I come.
We filled a room tonight.
There was a talent scout at that tap house for sure.
we made it, boys. And then Erik was just like, we got back down into like we got back down practicing again, and Erik was just like, all right, on to the next show. What do we got next? Let's write some more. And it was like incredibly just like, oh, that's how it works in reality. It's not we make one song, we do one performance, and that's it, we made it, boys. Like, and then like I feel like a lot of people can get discouraged like that. Like they make one song and like maybe it gets like 20 plays on SoundCloud if they're lucky, and they're like, man, music sucks, it's not for me, you know. And it's
because
kind
they're
of a
going
shame.
towards the wrong goal. I
Right,
think. Man.
right,
It's like,
right.
like, yeah, your music sucks if you're going towards the wrong goal. If that's how you're weighing if you're doing well or not. Of course, you're gonna have bad measurements there.
I think like music and social media and things like SoundCloud as like a musical social media and a platform, I think they're like social tools now. And I think like to younger generations, and not to like separate myself from younger generations, but I feel like people younger than us don't look at music the way people like 30 years ago or 50 years ago or however long, picking up instruments and having to like actually do it. Like they're not looking at it the same way. I think it's more of a social tool, and that's why it's more like, check this out, come see my song,
Right.
just
My
come see
song.
it. You know?
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like
It gives people, in my opinion, everyone should have the freedom to post and upload any sound they want, and that's important. But I also think that people get an unrealistic feeling of like the first time you make an official Spotify for your own artist self and stuff, you're like, I'm fucking signed, bro. I got a blue check mark by my goddamn name.
even for
All I
this
have to do is go-
podcast, when I saw the Junkyard Love podcast on Spotify, I was like, this feels way cooler.
But
than
and
other things.
it does feel good
It
because,
is.
because
You gotta be
it's
careful of that
branding,
shit, though.
and the branding is big,
Yeah.
and it took effort to do it, and therefore yes, that's good. But it's then the taking that success part of like, okay, I have achieved this, and then going further with it, where it's like, I have achieved this and I'm all this in a bag of chips, going way off the rail with it, where it's like you have to be realistic about where you are currently in the steps moving towards things. I think in music there's a really important analogy that like a staircase, right? So there's I want to be a musician, and then at the top of the staircase there is like, I am a famous whatever, like if your goal is to be famous, right? Okay. The stairs going up to that are like necessary things. Have a mentor or a teacher teach you some things. Learn about things that like, learn from someone who is better than you. Consistently surround yourself with people that are better than you. Practice for more than a year. I mean, like, to get good at guitar the way that I did, to get a scholarship to college, it's not like I play guitar for a few months and posted a video on YouTube and I felt really good about myself, so they gave me a scholarship. My family spent a lot of money on private lessons for me. I was lucky enough to have parents that wanted to fund me as an artist and, like, as a young high schooler. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of parents are like, screw that, you're not doing that. Right?
You were definitely putting some numbers on the board at a young age. I mean, you've been talented from a very young age.
Yeah, well, but that's still only because of teachers, though. I didn't have a lot of raw talent. I think I had a good raw ear.
But I don't know. I think meaning from the parents' perspective of like, oh shit, this is something we should put some money into. That's
Okay, right. Like making it worth their time and worth their money. Like they knew that after a point. I would agree with that.
You put in your work to prove that it's
right.
worth the money.
Yeah. Okay. So to go to that point, like, I started taking lessons here in town from long-time local legend Bob Nelson. Okay, he's a great guitarist. He got me like, and he started me off. I loved dissonance, which is like clashy stuff in music, and because it pulls out emotion for me. I loved it. I found a lot of dissonance in Latin jazz, bossa nova, Brazilian jazz. Antonio Carlos Jobim is a girl from Ipanema, blue bossa, songs like that, where the chord changes are so thick and insane and very dissonant. And he got me into that, and then eventually, I still had to. I had to go on to another teacher. Like, I had another tier that I had to go up on, right? And so then I took lessons from a Portland international jazz guitar, current, not legend, I would say, but Northwest legend, Dan Ballmer. And he teaches at Lewis and Clark College, and he travels internationally, plays for other people too. And he's someone who has a solo career and plays for people. Like, and so that's who I learned from a lot in Portland. And he's someone that consistently, I think it was like 3 or 4 lessons in, he's like, you're not that good. and
it's one of my favorite things.
Yeah. No, and it was awesome. It sucked. I was like really frustrated. I remember my freshman year in college, I would still take lessons from him because I was going to Mount Hood Community, and I would go see him. And I would get in the car and call my dad, like, still in the dude's driveway, crying, like real human tears, frustrated because I just feel like this, and he just wouldn't stop. Like, he would keep counting off a tune too fast, and I couldn't start. I just couldn't.
He doesn't understand.
Right, I would freak out, right? And I'd get home, and I would ignore my guitar for a few hours, and I'd be like, okay, I got to practice that song before rehearsal tomorrow at school. And then I would do that, and then whatever he was telling me at the lesson would, like, just click all of a sudden. And it's like, this dude's so good at what he does.
Isn't that crazy? So just sitting on the information, like, not even realizing that you were holding on to it for later.
Right.
And then you get to playing again, and it comes out, and you're like, damn it.
It's nuts, dude.
Yeah.
It's genuinely insane.
That's a wonderful teacher there.
Yeah, man. And then Brian Mitchell, Mark Moore's choir director, was probably the biggest influence in my developmental stages of life as a young kid and as a young artist and stuff. Like, because he showed me, like, this choral music where everything was cluster chords, which, like, basically a cluster chord in a choir is you divide the choir into a lot of sections, and you almost have every note in a scale being sung at once, and it causes a harmonic swirl, and it makes your spine tingle and goosebumps. It's a crazy, amazing experience. He got me into stuff like that, and he was also the jazz choir director and stuff, and so he got me into really weird freeform improvisation, Miles Davis, Bitches Brew. So at a younger age, I'm digesting pretty heavy music that's like stuff to study like in college. Like, I was taking college music theory when I was 16. And I think that's because I found success in music quickly because my teachers were so good. Right? That's a really big thing to like. I put in work. I put in time and practice. But they told me to practice. They showed me what to practice. They told me to move on when I needed to move on. I went up and up. And then they gave me the tools to, when I went up to Seattle, I could work under some really, really cool people, right? It's because they gave me those tools. If I would have went up there with raw talent, not being able to identify what things are and not know what I was talking about, there's no way these opportunities would have come. You know what you're talking about in the audio world. That's why you have great jobs and you can travel. Yeah, and do something you love,
I go to your world and I don't know what you're talking about.
But same for me, yours though.
That's what.
Like, if you say, hey, go set up this festival, I'll be like, that's So there's
And,
one.
and then you're like playing A major, and I'm like, I don't know that one.
What's the black key? I can't
I didn't do the black keys yet.
Well, that's like kind of like what we all do here, what we all bring to the table when we're
Oh god.
Jake Ryan's just dabbed when I'm trying to form a thought here. So
We're all literally at a table, so I thought that was the joke.
bring to the So anyway, yeah, well, we all bring something unique, and we talk about it a lot here. And it's just like it's so cool getting to make music with these guys. All four of us like bring something unique to the table, whether it's theory, whether it's the ear, whether it's the feel, whether it's the emotion or the sound tech, even like stuff like that, or just the opinions, the outside ear. Everything we bring is so valuable, and it's incredibly obvious when one of us can't make it to the practice, like something's missing. Like it doesn't feel complete. It's like the cheese isn't on the pizza. It's like yeah,
cheese,
you know, you can't skip the cheese.
Like, I'll still eat it because there's nothing else.
Like,
And it's late.
I'll still eat
Nobody
it.
else is
you
gonna
know?
deliver.
Is there basil on this sauce crust?
It seems worse.
I'm glad none of you guys are the pineapple for that pizza.
Yo,
Made me awfully sad.
You know,
I
hate to be that guy.
You know, that's two
shit,
of us.
here we
I'm a huge fan of pineapple on pizza, bro.
Yeah, Hawaiian pizza was like my first love.
We
Yeah.
gotta
Yeah,
change
same.
the subject.
Yo, are you pepperoni?
Pepperoni.
No, he's a cheese pizza.
Heck
guy.
yeah, but you guys, here's something that everybody needs to know.
What?
Is that if you fry Brussels sprouts.
What the?
No, listen to this. If
Oh,
you
fried Brussels sprouts, dude. Porky's has those.
fried Brussels sprouts.
What are you,
but,
80?
But what's amazing is that
What are you,
the
80?
size and shape and consistency of these little crispy circles are like little tiny like Papa Pete's crispy pepperoni.
Oh wait, okay. I
Wait,
feel
oh,
it.
the-
I
And they
totally
and they have
understand
that
what you're saying
salty taste.
Yeah.
You could totally have a vegetarian pizza shop just sell these motherfuckers out the store.
No, dude.
Left and
now. You
right.
can do cauliflower crust as well.
Now
Exactly.
we're getting to the meat
Yeah.
of what people wanted to hear.
The lack of meat of what people wanted to hear.
Yes.
But,
Listeners, this is a trademark product.
I'm so glad that chair just went down on
Yes.
you. That chair is going to be a hatred of. So people who have been listening to my podcast,
Watch your head.
Ooh, he missed it.
Whoa.
Eric is
Skills.
sitting in the chair that just randomly loses its hydraulics and just starts going down
He
on its own, which
plummets
now
to the
people who
floor.
listen to my podcast often know about that chair because it's been in the last 5 episodes.
Wow.
I'm honored to be a part of this.
The meme.
When are you going
Legacy.
to have the chair as a guest?
I don't. Can you guys step outside? We'll just do a little.
Yeah, a little,
Just leave the chair.
Yeah,
Dude,
leave the chair.
there's a cat that I follow on Twitter named Bilb or Bilbo.
I'm glad this sentence exists.
No, wait. This cat has its own podcast
No.
called the Bilbcast, and it is a half hour of that cat consistently purring, well mic'd and compressed. And it's one of my favorite ASMR.
Yeah, ASMR.
Oh yeah, put some headphones in that.
Dude, it's like, well, I already want my own kitty so bad. I want a little kitty that I come home to, and I'm like, "What up, Paul?" And like, I'll give him a high five, and he's like, "I had a good day." It's like, "I had a good day too." Now I can release my stresses and pet you very calmly and lovingly, and you're my little guy that I'm going through
The
life
thing
with.
about cats is they're so unpredictable. It's you're like, this is the sweetest cat ever, and then it gets older and it hates you,
No, my
and you're
first
like,
cat,
what am I
no.
gonna do? I have it. I have this cat.
Listen, I have this cat named Frank, and he's huge, man. He's a tank. He's
Frank the
Frank
Tank.
the Tank.
Frank the Tank.
Shout out Frank. I
Big
love you
Chungus.
so much. Yeah, but he's a chonk of a cat, and he's a sweetheart. Like he will seek you out. Like that's not cat behavior usually.
Right,
Like
right.
he will. You open the front door and he comes to you. Like he's a dog. He's confused. I think what happened was we took him away from his mom too early. You know, and we had a dog in the house. You know, and I think he was raised by the dog. And so now
I know
Frank.
all about being taken away from your mom.
Oh, Eric. Man, you're going to make me cry on the podcast now, man.
It's not true, actually. Sorry, it's like a wildly inaccurate fact about my life that I need to quickly correct. Go on about your cat that goes to you when you calls.
No, he's a sweetheart, and I love him, and his name is Frank. That just reminded me because you said you would name your cat Paul, and like everybody's like, why would you name a cat Frank? Like that's so odd. That's a human name. But then I'm like,
I want a human name for my
Yeah,
pet.
Well, why do we put limits on what we name animals?
Dude, so this is actually super great. I have 2 cats. They're not technically mine, but I do put cat food out, and they hang out in my backyard.
Raccoons.
One's name is Steven. He has a yellow eye and a blue eye. He's super cool.
Wow.
And the other one's name is Glenn, and he's just a black cat.
Glenn and Steven.
Glenn,
Steven, Frank, and Paul. They're all gonna get together and play
seem
poker.
Like homies, absolute homies.
Yeah.
And it's cool. It's funny because like I'll jokingly make up these names, but in the back of my head, I'm like, I know this is gonna make Shaylee laugh a little bit.
Yeah.
So it sticks. Like it's
Yeah,
like because when I
no.
tell her, she does laugh, and I'm like, huh. And so she can't help it when she pulls in the driveway and there's some like cat jumping across. She's like, damn it, that's Glenn.
Yeah. No.
Hey, Jacob Carrol,
Yes, sir.
you want to give me a little bit of your background in music? Like, how long have you been playing music? So you've been doing guitar. Or do you play any other instruments too, or?
Yeah. My dad actually bought me a guitar, just a simple Squire, real cheap starter guitar for I think it was my 10th or my 11th birthday. He bought me it, and I was like, of course I'm 10 or 11, so I'm super into like.
For some reason, I thought like we're talking about present tense, and I was like, dude, you just got that guitar, and you're not 11.
No,
Your brother built it.
We'll get to that. We'll get
Sorry, dude,
we'll get to
I
that.
didn't go
We'll get
back
to
far
that. I'm not 10, by the way. Disclaimer: I'm not 10 years old. If you're listening, I'm not.
Ladies.
He's 10. All right. Anyway, yeah, my dad got me a guitar for my 10th or 11th birthday. I don't remember. And he's like, you learn how to play blues guitar, and I'll buy you any guitar you want. He said that to me when I was 10 or 11 years old.
Did you like the blues at that time though? Like, did you?
I spent a lot of time with my dad, and like pretty much every time we were hanging out doing stuff in the garage, anything like that, he had B.B. King, Stevie Ray Vaughan, even like Jimi Hendrix playing in the background when we were doing stuff.
You should write a song called "Daddy Likes the Blues."
Yeah, maybe.
Or we could write a blues song that's just called Daddy's Favorite.
Daddy's favorite, and it's about me. All right. Anyway, yeah.
Probably actually gonna write a song about the later. So somebody write that.
Yes. Yeah. So anyway, I was like super into it, and I got frustrated super early because I couldn't play like Jimi Hendrix right off the bat, and the guitar hurt my fingers, and I hated it, and it sucked. So I hung it up for years. I was like, guitar sucks. I hate it. I'm never going to be good at this.
Yeah, it's hard to learn shit, huh?
Yeah. It's hard to suck at stuff. If you're listening to this, it is hard to suck at stuff.
Keep going.
But keep going.
Keep going.
Because
you have to suck to get better.
Exactly.
That's the whole point. You have to
Exactly.
go through a stage of suck.
Exactly. You have to suck at stuff at
This
first.
is one of the most motivational. Like, some Instagram girl needs to turn that, take it and make a valuable quote with somebody walking in a like a retro filter, like down a pathway, like with a quote.
Yo, I am set up. The shit that I post everywhere is just so set up for this opportunity.
Be
So
brave
Instagram
to
girl
suck
it
at
up.
something new.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
It sucks to suck.
It sucks
for
to
now.
suck. For now. I
will
love
be
that.
better.
I love that one.
So
I
how
love that
long
one.
before you picked up the old guitar again?
Oh,
though?
wow. I was probably, I dabbled a little bit. Like in high school, I picked it up again. I learned a few pentatonic scales, just do.
Devil's work.
Yeah, and I thought I was just the man. And then like I could play just a few notes and a few riffs, and I hung it back up until I was like 19 or 20. And then I met this dude I went to college with, and he was light years better than me at guitar. His name was also Jake, so it automatically made him
like a
cool.
good guy.
Yeah, it automatically made him cool.
Eric, have you heard of him? Eric?
No comment from Eric. Anyway, we started playing together, and he, like Eric was.
What are you saying, Wilson? I'm so frustrated.
I'm trying to think of other good guitar players named Jake. I'm trying to think of who he's talking about.
Keep it in your head. I'm losing it. My toe hurts.
Jake's just whispering over there.
Dude, he was
He's just
whispering Jake, though. It's like he was trying to think of what Jake he knows.
Moist syllables.
I'm trying to remember who I am. Who am I?
Eric's hell is just a bunch of Jakes saying Jake.
You know what? If you had unoriginal parents and you were
minute.
born in the 90s, your name is Jacob, all right? So anyway, yeah, I started playing with him. He's light years better than me. Really influenced me to pick it back up again. And I kind of been playing ever since then. And then I met Mr. Erik Nordin and Mr. Jake Wilson, who are also incredible musicians, and it keeps me motivated.
So you didn't have any like background, like any training or anything like that? It was just like
I took guitar lessons for like 2 weeks.
Oh shit, how'd that go?
And it was terrible.
Really?
Yeah. It was just like this dude, like he just like had this Walmart guitar instruction book, and he put it in front of me, and I couldn't read sheet music, and he would just solo the whole time while I struggled to play Mary Had a Little Lamb.
Oh my gosh. Just making the bank.
Going back to teachers, that's why.
Find a mentor.
That's why I give praise to my teachers so much.
Walmart's like, we got some guitar teachers for you. It's past the tire center.
It's the guy who also works for H&R Block up in the front. He's like, we can go behind the curtain.
He can play pentatonics. He can play pentatonic solos. So
Who's gonna be in the Chase Bank when I need to cash my money order from George Strait
What?
for $15,000?
Getting paid on that feature guitar, boy.
But yeah, it's so interesting to hear that you took. I didn't know that about you. I didn't know that you took a couple weeks of lessons and that it sucked, because I've heard so many people like will start lessons. Yeah, piano's a common one too with this. Like, they'll start lessons and the teacher's bad enough where it snuffs out the want to even play this instrument.
That's exactly what happened. He would just sit there and play AC/DC licks while I'm struggling to learn Mary Had a Little Lamb, and just like it was just like, this sucks, I hate this, I'm never coming back again.
You guys, I never took private lessons, but I started taking violin in 5th grade. I did orchestra, and all I ever did was orchestra up through a sophomore year, and like I had the greatest teacher the whole time, Mr. Williamson over at Kelso and Cowieman. Dude, that guy, I used to piss him off.
Really?
In middle school.
How so?
Because I was so hyperactive, and I would call him like Elmer Fudd or something, you know?
Oh,
like,
right, because he kind of did. He did look like Elmer Fudd.
Yeah,
to be honest.
yeah.
Well,
and
when
no,
you're a high school,
Well, you're a
high school
kid,
kid,
yeah.
you're gonna find a way to make fun of a teacher. That's
no,
just
but
how-
like that guy, I mean, like he did so much for me and was so patient with me, and even though, like, somehow I still to this day don't think I ever knew how to read music, but I still managed to do it because I would write like the finger positions over all the notes on all of my. I would go through, like, I should have been writing tab books in 6th grade because I was going in there and writing and all that
Did you ever
stuff.
use Guitar Pro? Like that computer tablature program?
I looked
Yeah,
at that
right?
a couple times. It was weird.
Yeah.
I didn't like
what
tabs
is
as a
that? What
guitar
is that?
player.
Dude,
Learning.
okay, Guitar Pro was this thing where there's a website where most guitar players at all stages, when they're trying to learn a song, they go to ultimateguitar.com, okay? It has
Hell
lyrics
yeah,
and chords
the
or
news.
tablatures with like...
Can you explain what tabs are too, real quick?
A tablature, when you look at it, it shows with a bunch of hyphens what a guitar neck will look like with 6 strings. And then on those 6 strings, it'll put a number on where a hyphen would be. And that number is going to be the fret that you press down, therefore that being the note. Now, guitar...
But as far as the rhythm, good for you. You're on your own.
Yeah, good luck, buddy. You
Get
have
it.
to know.
But what was cool about that is that it makes you have to hear it and go, oh, that's where that one fits in. So there is a part of learning and building some strong connections there that I think is still... I mean, I
Tablature has cool symbology that helps tie together those discrepancies, though, like weird little like things that represent like a bend up.
That program, that's
tab.
crazy. It's given me a crazy flashback because that program is the reason I picked up guitar again. Because I gave up on it for so long because I couldn't read music and I didn't give a shit to read music. And so I remember my uncle had that, what was that, Guitar Pro, that program? He had it on his computer and he was showing it to me. And I was like, wow, I can play Crazy Train now. I can play the intro to Crazy Train. I can play Smoke on the Water. And like I was playing all these songs without having to read music. And like obviously you get to a limit where as a musician, that's all you can do is just play licks to famous songs, you know, and you're not really making your own stuff. But to a beginner, I believe like tablature can be beneficial. Like reading tabs as a
It makes you
beginner
have
guitar
fun,
player,
dude.
you're having fun.
That's cool.
Like,
I'm making
like,
some progress.
yes,
That
so like I can
nice.
play along with my favorite songs, and I don't have to read music.
or like it'll show you an order of notes that you yourself have not thought to play yet. And now you're like, I now have that in my toolbox.
So can we just based off the nature of the podcast, let's say person who has never picked up a guitar before. Nowadays, guitars are pretty cheap. You can get a decent guitar, used guitar, whatever, $150, whatever, $100. Yep. And they want to just like learn. Let's just play around. They can go to tabs. I would say, would you say start with tabs if they want to like check out some of their favorite songs, or what would you say?
Yeah, that's a tricky question for guitar players because
I'd say learn chords. I would say
Yeah.
learn chord shapes and then go and learn scales. Honestly, I put off scales for so long. I didn't learn scales until like a few years until playing guitar. And the embarrassing thing is that when I was first learning guitar, I looked at scales and I thought they were chords. And I was like, I don't have that many
the difference
fingers.
between-
What's the technique here?
What's the difference between scales and chords?
Right. So like because when you see them on a chart, they have the same kind of figurations. They're all dots on a fretboard to kind of look like
so
finger
for tabs,
placing.
for people
So-
listening,
Yeah.
they're numbers. So tabs work. There's 6 parallel lines. And like Erik was saying earlier, the number on the line is the fret number that you're pressing down on the guitar. And so when you're looking at tabs, just say like 6-5-4 on a certain line that you're playing frets 6-5-4 like in order.
And the frets are, so when you're looking at a guitar, the frets are,
The
you
frets
see
are the
little
spaces.
metal, the metal
frets- yeah,
silver
so the-
thing, they'll separate the
so
frets.
yeah. And so you just count from the top 1, 2, 3, 4,
Yeah.
5 all the way down.
Dude, honestly, just learning that for me, so that's why I asked what you guys would recommend, because for me, if you guys didn't know, I actually I played a little guitar myself when I was younger, and that was what I learned to do. I didn't know chords, I didn't know any of that stuff, but tabs were like I was very discouraged, but then I looked up tabs.
They're the enemy.
And well,
see, that's
it's funny because it made me
wait,
put it
let's
away.
listen.
It made me put it away, but it was to where like you said, Smoke on the Water and Crazy Train. Those were two things that I learned too, because you can look at the tabs like, oh, this is on the third one. 1, 2, 3, duh, cool. Yep. So it made me go from like nothing at all to something. So that was encouraging, but I mean, I put it down after a few months and I didn't pick it back up for years. So, so that's what reading tabs is, as far as saying like chords and scales. Yeah. How would you say you would go about learning that next step of chords? Like what's, so person who wants to pick up a guitar, just try it out. How would they learn a chord?
I mean, I think we all three have very different answers, and so I think we should all three give answers to this.
Okay.
Jake Wilson. you
Jake
go first,
Wilson,
man.
please go first.
I would say like it depends on who your teacher is, or it depends on if you don't have a teacher. And if you're just picking up a guitar in any sense, just like try to emulate something that you know. Like look up a song that you want to play, and then look up that chart and make it a really easy song that's possibly repetitive. So you're doing the same thing over and over again, and you're locking in what those shapes are and configurations. Because there are a lot of open chords that you just put 3 fingers down, and a lot of songs where you hold those 3 fingers for like 5 seconds. And that's enough to get like a few amount of beats in.
So you would say like emulating your favorite songs would be a good start.
If
Like
you're
chord
just
songs,
starting
like
out,
just strumming chords.
yeah,
like, Hallelujah,
I would
Jeff
say
Buckley,
learning
go
how
ahead.
to touch the guitar, and
Even
and
yes.
if you're learning chords, and then like pick, just like experiment for sure, but like try to find those spots where you feel comfortable first, so that you find where you can fit in, unless you're just like totally like balls to the walls. I'm just gonna take this for what it is, and like do your thing. So.
Okay, I like that. Jake Carrol, what do you think?
Oh man, I'm just trying to think like in retrospect, if I was gonna learn guitar differently, what would I do the same or what would I do differently? Is very hard because like a lot of times, like I'll play something and then people who don't play guitar will be like, "Wow, that's awesome!" But to me, it's like a warm up, and like to where if I'm hanging out with my musician buddies, they won't even look. So it's incredible. It's really weird. So to answer your question, I'm gonna have to go ahead and agree with Jake Wilson here and learn chords, especially songs Because for me, that's what got me back into it, was being able to play, the intro to Crazy Train. I'm like, wow, I feel like an actual guitar player now. It feels nice. But definitely after you get comfortable with the feeling of the guitar in your hands, if you're a new guitar player, spend a little time with theory. Don't be afraid of it. It's very intimidating at first, but if you begin to understand music theory a little bit, stuff starts to click. You understand why you play the notes that you play and why they work.
Honestly, there's so much useful stuff on YouTube. I mean, I just for hours. So a lot of times what I'll do is, as I'm just like diddling around, I'll put on some sort of like something like type in music theory and see which one has a lot of views and it kind of looks appealing. Hit play and watch it and just let it play. Like I feel like just learning about it leads into wanting to learn more and like, okay, what do my fingers do next? And it's like you subconsciously seem to start to understand it.
And things will, like what Erik was talking about earlier, how stuff started to click when he was at home after the lesson. Like there's been multiple times, like you were saying, like I spend a lot of time on YouTube now learning from guitar channels on YouTube, because there's still obviously, like even if after I've been playing for 12 years, there's still more to learn, and there will be stuff to learn until I die or put the guitar away, which I don't think that'll happen. But just like I'll be like watching these videos and they'll be hard and I'll get frustrated and I'll put my guitar away for a little bit and then I'll pull it back out and be like, oh, that's why I play those notes.
It's almost
right
like
there.
You're working on it in the background. Right?
It's
almost like
you're
you have this little
subconscious.
dude who's just shredding guitar, and he's like, I haven't learned it yet, but I think by like next Thursday,
Like
we're gonna figure that out.
like whenever I'm listening to a song, like I mean, the song is going through my head, but of course, like my mind is just like, instead of thinking, and if I'm thinking about the song, I'm just like bouncing with the song. Like I'm either thinking about what I'm hearing, which is probably just like hearing what I'm thinking, And then
what do you mean by that? Thinking what I'm hearing?
Don't get me into this. Yeah, no, we don't have time.
We don't have time for that. That's a whole nother podcast for
When
that.
it comes to this.
Jesus.
I know what you say though. I mean,
But,
you snap yourself out of it when you're overthinking it, right?
Right, totally. Yeah, but you just kind of get to this point. I don't know, that whole approach of a cliff of whatever drop off that was kind of made me forget where we were headed with that one.
well, we were just it's fine. We were just actually going to round out advice
For like a beginner, then I'm really excited to hear what Erik has to say. Like for somebody who is freshly picking up their first Target Squire.
Erik has some advice about minor inversions.
Some major sixth chords, maybe.
Yeah, right from the get-go. You want to listen to a lot of Joe Pass.
So this is Jessica walking through Target to get her first guitar. This is who you're talking to.
Oh, so... Okay.
Wait, don't go to Target. Would you say that?
Yeah,
First
my
thing?
very first thing is do not
Go to a guitar shop?
do not buy a department store guitar for your first instrument. The reason why I'm saying this is because it will be painful to learn when it's time to restring that guitar, which will be quickly after you open that box it comes in.
It's baseboard wood. It's plywood. It's literal. It's not even a viable tone wood. Yeah. That they use in most of those.
So instead of spending $50 at Walmart or Target, it is worth spending $95 to $100 at Guitar Center or on Musician's Friend. Squire.
Yeah, that's what I started on, man.
And if it's not,
what about? Is there any local places that you recommend?
not anymore.
No. Okay.
I mean, I Teal's music has been, you know what, I do recommend Teal's in the sense that like it's a local business and like I support local businesses, but if you're starting, I don't recommend spending that much money on your first guitar. It's worth just make it if you're a younger person starting, and you're asking for it for Christmas. I mean, the way that my dad did a lot of cool guitar shopping with me is he would take me down and we would spend a day going to guitar shops and I would play some stuff. This is after I'm a little more established though, right? And then he would get a feel for what I really liked, and then he'd just get something that was like based off it. He won't get anything that I played, but he gets something close to it. And he's
Because he still wants to surprise you.
exactly
Yeah.
right. So no, dude, my parents are incredible. But whether or not you have incredible parents, what you want to do to start when you're playing guitar is you do not want to start with a crappy guitar. You want to get a decent one. Doesn't have to be a phenomenal one, but you want your first chord to sound good when it's successful. Second of all, you need to be goal oriented from the start. So if your goal is to learn a song from your favorite artist, then there's some things you need to do towards that. If your goal is to become a guitar player, that's a different avenue entirely. And with that avenue, I immediately suggest that you get a guitar teacher. And it does not have to be a super formal thing. My guitar lessons were 1/2 hour every week. I'd walk over to Teal's Music from Mark Morris High School. I'd sit down. They'd say, hey, we'd strum some stuff. He'd kind of correct me on some things. We wouldn't really be hammering things too hard. And what a good teacher will fluctuate things. Will be a couple lessons where he's hanging out, getting the vibe of you, seeing like where he needs to start. And like for me, when I teach lessons, I have a quick way to get two or three chords written on like a chord chart paper for them with the fingering that they're going to take this home. They're going to easily be able to know what we did at practice and look at that. And they're going to be able to strum these in time until I see them the next time. And then I'll add something to that, right? And then with that, you're building tools as a guitar player. With those tools, you can learn the songs from your favorite artist quicker. So
Hey, do you know what I was kind of thinking about that? Is how you can set out a song, like you could be sitting there and you could be finding out a really cool chord. Be like, this is intense. I'm going to send this to my student. And then this, like, because you've shown me some pretty intense stuff, you're like, yo, check this out. Blah, 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 blah. Right. And it's like, I mean, like, sometimes I can do stuff like that, but then I can never repeat it because I look at it and I'm like, I don't have the patience to find out what I just did. And so, but imagine sending that to a student who's like, this is canon, this is lore, right. And they're like, I have to learn this, and then suddenly, like that becomes their like their 12-bar blues is this fucking immense evolution that you've had by just like setting them a goal.
Do you think that's beneficial as a teacher though, like to start with that sort of like intensity? Because like I've played with people, yeah. like I've played with people because like I'm a decent guitar player. But like I've played with people and I watch them play and I'm like, wow, you are light years ahead of me in like guitar playing. Like I would have to practice for years, like put my fingers to the fretboard daily and practice hard with a mission, like what Erik talked about earlier, to have this goal for yourself, whatever that goal may be, to get to the point where you are. Or like as if you were to teach guitar, would you rather be like, all right, here's an E major and here's an A major? Like what do you think? Or do you want to be like,
it depends on who you're teaching, and
I guess,
and
yeah, like a beginner or like somebody
who's
been playing for 6 years.
Because everybody has a different goal. I mean, like even between the three of us, like as much as like this current like combination is like something that we like really enjoy and like to be a part of and feed into, it's like individually, like we represent different facets, you know, of musicality, and that's what's so cool about it. And realistically, I think we'd all fall much more into that than, you know, than other things.
Yeah, I think the goals is what it's all about. Yeah. The very first lesson, especially for kids, I always tell parents the first lesson is always free because you want to make sure that this kid really wants to do this. Yeah. And that's what I'm going to take the time to make sure. It's a half hour. In that half hour, I will be able to tell you if this kid really wants to. I'll ask the kid straight up, did your dad buy that guitar for you? Yeah. Did your dad want you to take lessons? Mm-hmm. You want to take lessons? I kind of guess so. Oh, okay. You should. I mean, if he wants to do it next lesson, that's fine. But if not, don't worry about it. You know, stuff like that. And then the other thing too is with the goals. I taught this 9-year-old at the time, a 9-year-old. Now she's probably in middle school now. I taught her some basics of guitar, and we just kind of like fizzled out and stuff. I think eventually I didn't follow through at some point, looking back at it, but from the very beginning, I was having her do downstrokes, and I was showing her chords where she can move just a couple fingers at a time, but it's doing 2 chord changes. I would make her verbally count 1, 2, 3, 4, right. 1, 2, 3. So already in her infancy and in the beginning stages of music, she has an internal metronome, right? Because these are tools that I was shown at a pretty young age where I thought if I would have learned that even younger, wow, would have been incredible,
That-
right?
that-
So
That kind of goes back to what I was saying is like I really wish somebody would have told me about music theory when I was like even like 16. Sure. Because like I didn't even know it was a thing until I was 20 maybe.
well, there's a huge misconception of what music is what music is as a whole, like to the general population and then to musicians. Like,
Oh, definitely.
Like if
definitely.
you just hear a song by Katy Perry, you're like, wow, Katy Perry made a really good song. It's like, no, she didn't.
Well, if I can, if
first
I
of all,
could
how dare
gently
you?
harken back to what I was talking about earlier, how like in this current generation, people are kind of looking at music as a social tool. Like it's
sure.
Yes,
There we
yes,
go,
yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
it's kind of this point of allure and like, oh, if I can have all the right factors like that. You know, that kind of beat, you know, which is cool. I love it. But why is everyone kind of like fucking it up?
Yeah,
You know?
Why are we shooting for shit that isn't us?
Why is there, it's DJ Khaled, you know? And it's like, that would have been a great song, except.
And there's a lot of like younger like in high school for me, every kid wanted to be in a band and play guitar and stuff, and now it's a lot quicker to rap over a beat really fast and upload it. And I get that because there's nothing better than showing someone something that you made.
That's the thing is,
there's a
it's
huge
quick and
sense
it's
of
showing
pride.
something that you made. That's
Us
It's
four even
powerful
have that
assurance.
just as a friendship. Like we'll send each other shit in our group message. All
Of course,
day.
yeah.
Like it's
but this point's a little extended. Sorry, I'm trying to like.
no. But I'm saying it's okay, but you got to watch it. I'm saying you got to notice it, dude. It's not. It's not great to like function your whole career off it.
Right, I can't remember what I said now. To be honest with you.
You were talking about just, hey, look what I made, how good that feels. Like
Oh,
right off the bat.
yeah, and that's phenomenal and stuff. But to chase after, and it's also important to know, like factually, let's say you show your friends like your first song ever, and they go, "Oh, it's the first time you've ever done anything? That's awesome." They're gonna do that. Then a very common misconception. This is not, and I'm diagnosing this from my history. I want to be clear. I'm not making fun of anyone for their doing. I am diagnosing these things because I have done them myself. Then it is really easy to crank out a lot more stuff and release everything that you make and show everyone all the time. You got to hear it, and then you're gonna notice that less and less people are engaging. Definitely. There's a few reasons for this, in my opinion. One of the reasons is it's kind of music vomit at this point. You need to like in the world of like if I were to post every single that's like posting every single time I'm just trying to jam.
Yo,
on guitar.
okay, so like there's a difference between having a lot of music and making a big deal about every piece of music. Because it's like if you every once in a while really feel passionately and you set kind of like mission goals for yourself on a timeline of like, oh, every so-and-so songs because I'm on a frequency of making a lot of songs, you know, like I'm going to make this one important and then people are going to follow up and they're going to see what precedes it or what succeeds it. And it's like, I think that's the problem. I feel like people don't put enough space between what they think is a big deal. And I think there's a lot of hype culture where every time you release a song, the song has to be the biggest part. That did not used to be the.
Thanks so much, guys. I love you. Thanks
Yeah,
for everything.
yeah.
You guys are the best. And it's like,
Yeah.
it's okay. It's okay to make something and be like, hey, this is what I did today.
We're confused about it though. It's like we think we need to get exactly what we got the first time.
And to be clear,
Searching for it though. It's not good though.
something I've done, or maybe we've all done. I'm very guilty of it, right? Because that, and the problem with doing that is that you're feeding into that unnecessary competitive nature of it, where it's like the only reason to hype yourself up is because you see something and you want like, I can't remember what I was saying now.
Well, dude, okay, but I think what you're rounding about, something I've mentioned a little bit before. Gary Vee actually talked about this thing about, I've used this analogy, like, so say you post 5 things on Instagram, you have, you know, 4 of them, they do crappy, like but like 1 and 2, they're like you, like they're your soul, like they're what you're good at, like and then the other things are just like, you're like, I wonder if people will like these, and then so your 1 and 2 are the most you, but number 4, that gets fucking 5 million views. Right. That number 4, and it's you dancing on spinning on your head, like, and it's something that you don't really do, but it's so the thing that people like a lot, the thing that get people like, oh, shoot, you guys like that? That's what you really like a lot? Like, what if that's not authentically you? I think that's a danger. Like, I think that, like, when it's like, you can put out, say, like, hey, all 5 of these things are things that I want to experiment with. But, like, if the public picks, we only like number 4, you might say, okay, number 1 and 2, I thought were me, but they're trash. I hate them.
Right along with this point, this is why Rosetan for me.
What do you mean?
Instead of the public, like, I have people that are close creators to me that I can bounce these ideas off of now. I think the biggest thing with me, even my Instagram handle for like years, Erik Nordin Music, I trash that crap because it sounds shitty, but and it's also
Ambient boy for the win.
That's right, because that's who I am in my heart.
2 eyes.
And reality.
Like in real life.
I try. No, but creating music by myself got me in an unnecessary competitive race, where like I was looking at other people creating and stuff, near or distant, and people from past, people from far, and thinking like okay, then like I gotta ramp up for this next thing, and realizing that being in like your entire own lane and creating a community around that lane and making I mean, honestly, the impact we've had on the community in our 3 local shows has been great. The fact that we've been able to fill 3 rooms with people that, okay, so we had one show and that was great.
Tour schedule coming about.
Right. Yeah, we had a lot of dates. I'll share that at the end of the podcast.
Let's talk about more like the music community.
No. Keep going on that though.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So okay. So because for me, a big thing for me is that that self gratification thing. That's an arms race musically. You touched on that earlier. I literally quit guitar for 2 years to start DJing because I saw like how much people liked you and stuff, and I was like, oh, no one notices me because I'm playing guitar, so I have to become a DJ. And so I tossed years of schooling and like something that I was like really good at and sacrificed it for something else, and then got lost in all the wrong things and that kind of a scene, mainly like narcotics and stuff like that, like just like making a lot of selfish, deceitful choices, and then after a while you have some problems and whatnot. And that's not everyone in that scene. That is unfortunately what became me in that scene. I just didn't have good self-control, and then with that became trying to make beats and doing stuff like that. And even then I'm struggling with a lot of insane mental health issues. I'm depressed. I'm constantly anxious. Even as a creator, I'm not finding peace in music, right?
And you're staying up late, and there's lots
Forever.
of drinking.
Yep. And you're not treating yourself right. To be clear, I'm not sure I'm treating myself like necessarily right now, but I'm doing a lot better. And I think the reason why Rosetan is because I needed to change. I wanted to change myself musically, and so I thought rebranding myself as an individual would be that. And then I realized that, like, you know, I used to be in bands. I was in a band called Telegraphy before this, an instrumental post-rock band. I played in bands in Seattle and Portland and stuff. And the community of that, the camaraderie of those people, the consistent checking in, the talking to each other every day, even if you don't see each other every day, the someone to talk to no matter what, the goal-oriented as a team, wanting to make emotional music and make people feel something unexpected, or they came and they did want that and they did expect it and they got it, you know. All that kind of stuff, being able to do that is probably, it's cool that we fit it in at the end of the year because it's easily the highlight of 2019 for me already. The last 3 months of 2019, the start of this band, is undoubtedly for me as an individual the highlight of my year, because these guys have given me a reason to be consistent in my personal life, where it's like I need to work hard at work. I need to be a good man there. I need to improve myself when I work for Parks and Rec. I need to be more patient when I drive, so I'm safer when I travel with my friends. We did a weekend trip together and stuff because I wanted to know what it'd be like to travel with them, because we're about to do that. and you know, you just kind of want to know what you, right? Yeah. long drive. And just, you know, I just think for me, being in a band gave me a much needed sense of self-worth in an area of music where there's not a lot of eyes or ears. But the ones that are there are like so intentional. And that's like the connection that I need, because the music that I'm writing is not something that like I am fully at terms that like it may not be for everybody, right? And so far it's been inherently like really sad music and stuff, and that's just something that I have.
It's not that sad. I mean, the
sure,
nature of it, of course, is sad, but it's like
right.
It's
Well,
like
It just has more emotion than what we're
a lot of
accustomed to
standard
in
music, sure.
you know?
I just feel like I don't want someone to be like, I'm not going to listen to their music because it sounds
No,
super
no,
sad.
right,
It's definitely
right.
some shit.
Right, but just from the place where I came from and writing it, it came from like an inherently sad area, and like where now it's like January 3rd, I'm excited to like we're gonna play a new song for the first time. Well, yeah, basically, we rehearsed it a lot last rehearsal, and it's something where I was like, I have to write about like going to I go to the beach all the time, and we did a beach trip together, and my parents always took me to Fort Stevens. I gotta like put that in the song, right? I gotta put other details in my life, and I gotta stop talking about life as it's happening at me. And I needed to change the narrative as a lyricist, which is an area that I have not. I'm very new to writing lyrics. Like my music has been instrumental for almost a decade, so this is all very new. It's singing. It's like I sang in choir at Mark Morris, but singing is not something I'm confident in at all. But it's the way that like makes this feel that good to me.
Well, dude, I think the just watching a lot of your progress, like I've known you as a friend, like we got connected through the DJ world.
Yeah.
So I knew you at your worst.
Yeah, it's true.
Like,
yeah, bro, so true.
And now like wonderfully I get to know you at your best too. I do want to emphasize though, like you weren't some sort of like demon back then or something. Like
No.
you certainly were just you've always been a wonderful person. You just were a little caught up in your vices, and you were trying to get some attention because as much as we are always trying to get attention, it's a huge thing in DJ world. Is a quick tip to get it, man. Yeah, you that's how it goes.
Especially when the wave was that strong with it too. Mm-hmm. Like, you know what I mean? And
I was super happy to have you, and it's cool because we look at these things now. I was super happy to have you, like, because you were actually very good at DJing. Yeah. Like you think that you like didn't contribute that much, but you're pretty good at DJing. Nice. But I think that it's also really strange and fun to look at these times now and think of like if you didn't do that thing where you did the DJing thing for a while,
right?
And you did learn quite a bit like on beat making and stuff.
Yeah.
And we like now our paths had crossed. Right. So it's just interesting, It's just I like to point these little things out because I feel like as a listener, if it's just kind of like sometimes you don't realize that when you're in the shit, when you're in the mud, it's like you got to keep going because you're learning something right now, right? Right. Like maybe somebody's in there like their DJ phase of being an ambient person. You know what I mean? I just could be your mud, baby.
Nice.
Like, hey, you're looking a little like a DJ, man. Are you all right?
Hey, you had us backwards and to the
I
side.
noticed you've worn joggers for like 9 days now.
Like you're crossfading a little too much. Like what?
All right, guys.
All right.
Okay. That's enough of that. Okay.
This has been the Junkyard Love podcast.
We're fucking out. You guys need to leave. Insulted.
But it's a good point though with the past. Like like the past is still necessary because sometimes I look back and I go, oh, I wish I could have changed this or that. And this goes for more than music. This goes for like personal life stuff. There's constantly you look back and you go, I coulda, shoulda, woulda, all the time, like constantly.
But you can't.
But right, and that's been my biggest mental enemy, and I think it's also been misdiagnosed depression. I think I call it depression, and I see people who are suffering immensely through real depression, and I realize that maybe it's I think smaller note, we can talk about this later with mental health and stuff. I think as a whole we misdiagnosed anxiety and depression as like
we filtered on depression to
right,
just be like we don't have to deal with it.
Well, depression is really general because look at what a depression is. It's just like any sort of slight is a depression.
Okay,
and that's just how we look at it.
There's a difference between depression and going through a depression and being depressed, and there's a difference between having anxiety and being anxious.
We don't know how to separate ourselves from our feelings in actual reality when we're going about our days. We don't know how to separate that. So when we diagnose issues, we can't rationally and on the same line separate our feelings from ourselves. we can't say, oh, we're beyond this identity. You know, like there's no medical identity for that because it's not recognized.
And I want to say, just honestly, I think all four of us can probably just say like a amen to that. Like
Absolutely.
just if you're
Honestly,
going
like,
through it, man, don't just be like, I'm depressed, I can't do anything. Like expand it, man. You can expand it and see what it is.
Jake Wilson has a really good way of poetically speaking. Like there's been numerous times when we're down here, we put the guitars down for a minute and we're just talking as friends, and then like Jake will say something, and then it takes us all like what seems like 20 seconds plus to just kind of sit back and digest what he just said, and we're like, wow, how long have you been sitting on that? Like, have you been like
Long ass fucking time, probably.
There's a lot of beautiful lyrics
sure.
going into
like,
that.
yeah, just like, and that comes back to what I was talking about earlier, is how it just, we're not strictly together in this Rosetan thing for music.
Yeah, no, I think Rosetan is more of like, and that's the other thing too, is like it's more than music. Like we're collaborating with visual artists consistently too. I really got to talk about this.
Yeah, I was gonna say, let's talk about the community. I was thinking of
Right.
Rosetan as kind of like a Brockhampton, if you think about, like, not
Yeah.
fully, but
Sure.
Brockhampton was like they're a bunch of motherfuckers who are just like, you're the videographer, you're part of it.
Well, I mean,
We'll talk about. Okay, I'll explain it after
so
this. But
talk
about the community of Rosetan.
an exact thing like that would be Bon Iver, like Justin Vernon. I listened to that podcast, Broken Record podcast with Rick Rubin, and that was really great. And there's also other things. Basically, Bon Iver is like, it's a 6-person live band, but it's a 25-person art project, right? Or 28, something like that. So visual artists, painters, animators, digital artists that like are doing weird audio stuff beyond music. How
How do these people get paid? That's my biggest question, because if I knew the answer to that, then I would hop on it.
The answer is eventually.
Yes.
I think that goes back to, I had a great mentor up north that I FaceTime every once in a while, and the biggest quote that he told me maybe a few months ago, which was also ironically at a turning point for Rosetan, which was like, why did you start in the first place? Okay, and that's why, going back to taking guitar lessons, you need to make sure you want this in the first place. And in my opinion, you need to make sure you want this for the right reasons, and you got to set it up with the right teachers, because it all connects down the line. Just like we as humans, if there's childhood trauma, it affects us as adults. It can there can be some things askew in the beginning of the music stuff. It will come up as an issue later, but you may not feel it in the midpoint, but it will come up. So it's just better to just take care of basic music things early on.
Got to be willing to look at it.
Sure. And I just think going back to the Bon Iver artist community. So that was something I really admired. Okay, and there's a little bit, and there's my friend Sison. He does this incredible visual art where there's no way to describe. And I think his Instagram handle is just @Sison with an underscore at the end of it, SYSON.
Dude, you'll look for so long.
Yeah. Dude, it's interesting. It's bizarre. I don't.
Kelly at Antidote left one of his chalk drawings on there for like a week.
Oh, she kept it up there, huh?
It was up there for like a week.
Oh, it's so
we
cool.
came back the next week after he did that. It was still there.
Oh, that's right.
It said Rosetan in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think the big thing is like with him, he doesn't have any like formal training with stuff, and there's also not really a genre for what he's doing. I would call it's abstract at best, to give it a name. But he just listens to music and he goes. He mainly only draws when listening, and I think that's really powerful. And so like that's why I want to work with him, and him doing like a live canvas doing one of our sets. Right? That's why he's been practicing canvas painting recently, is because he wants to, well, I would like him to, in a situation where we're playing our set and he's off to the left and it's like a corner of white sheets and a canvas. He's just going to paint during that set. And at the end of it, that's the end of it. You don't get to change that, right? Yeah. Just like for us, like performing, like you leaving it there. You know, every performance has been wildly different. So every crowd gets like, that's for you. and it won't happen the same again.
No, I was actually listening to like the stuff that we have on Bandcamp, just like in preparation for our, like, I like to compare what's on Bandcamp right now to what we play like live and during practice, and how it's different and how it's the same, picking up on stuff that I think like we do really well, and stuff that's like, well, that's different in the way we do it live, or that's different, that's the way in the recording. And I think it's really special. Like anybody who's ever been to one of our live shows, or let me put it this way, anybody who's ever been to two of them got a different show absolutely both times. Like they didn't hear the same song the same way two times.
What's
like,
interesting is like the influence, and we've talked about this, between like practicing at Steven's house, and practicing with Jake.
Tack at Stack Sound.
Steven Tack is a marvelous man, fantastic guy.
He's really kind. He kind of gave me my start personally. Just like a quick for sure. Hold on to that thought and don't lose it. Like for sure, don't lose it. He gave me my start at my first open mic at 15, and he has always encouraged me to record and stuff. And he kind of gave me the ear and the sense of organic, abstract stuff. Like he kind of helped cultivate my brain and ear. Okay.
Bless that man.
Oh yeah, but no, he's a great guy, and just been very generous in like the same sense that Jake Ryan's has, and just like giving Rosetan a chance to just be like, hey, come here, and just like hang out, like I'm here too, but let's just see how this works. And I think like Steven offered like a lot of like really technical advice at first, which was really cool. It was really helpful, especially as like guitar players, and he's got like the amps all set up, and he's got the mics all set up. He's like, how do you feel about this? Blah blah. I'm like, blah blah blah. And he's got like a blah blah back right for you.
Always.
And you're like, wow, I'm glad the blahs all sound the same.
Yeah.
We're just grunting at each other like,
That's good, Steven. Thanks for doing that, sir.
The meaning.
Yeah,
It means so much more.
he does. He does a lot of unorthodox things.
No, it's cool, and it's I don't know. I think it's cool just being able to work with people, who are just outside of that band thing. Once again, where it's like they're not playing the instrument, but they're like a member of the band, like Jake or Steven, or like Talisa, because we were talking about
that's what I was getting to
visual
with the
arts
with the community
and
still.
Talisa, how she creates these amazing visual arts for us that are just fantastic. And like,
We'll come back to that more too.
ooh, and there was one picture I want to touch on that she made, and it was of her model Cheyenne Olivas, fantastic person as well, but she's holding an apple in her hand. And the shape of the apple in her hand, with the way her arms are holding it, it looks like an R. And I was like, ooh, that's a Rosetan. Yeah.
If it was intentional or not, like if you've been to the Rosetan Instagram page, like that's what most of it is, and just like all the stuff she created is just like so incredible. And I actually got the privilege to meet her a few weeks ago, and she was just like such a cool person too. Like I had only seen her artwork, and like kind of this goes back to community. I had only seen her artwork, and so I was like a little bit starstruck when I met her, because I was just like, wow, like I've been following your stuff forever. You did all this incredible stuff for the band, and like it's so cool to meet you. And she was just so humble about it. She's like, wow, awesome, thank you.
Cool, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
so
just a
wow,
normal person
awesome.
like
I'm just a
you.
person.
Yeah.
And that was the same with the Wildish band from the area.
Fucking obsessed with the Wildish. I just
Yes,
blessed.
the Wildish
Get it
is
off my chest every second you
amazing.
say
Shout
it.
out to Jake Wilson.
Some of my favorite people.
And
I mean,
the rest
Rosetan's
of-
cool too. They're cool.
like-
And you can hear both of those bands at Ashtown Brewery, January 11th. That's going to be the last time we played together. It was something. Our first two shows were together, so it was something super special.
Oh yeah.
And anyway, but keep going, Mr. Carroll.
Yeah, and like back with them, like coming back to the whole community thing, and like working with other artists, like as an artist, like guitar player myself, musician, like I honestly looked up to these Wildish guys for so long.
Oh, dude.
I was like, damn, like this good of music can come out of my hometown. like are like and it gave a lot of hope to me, like at some point that I could find a group of people.
You're gonna do it,
like,
man.
Like Erik Nordin and Jake Wilson, like I could find a group of people and we could create, and of course Jake Ryan's over here, to create such good music. And then we approached our first show and we played with them, and then I was like, oh my God. I was like, it's you guys? It's you for real? Like, I didn't even realize, because they were just like friends. Like, we were just hanging out. And
I
then
love it. I mean, like, that's one of my favorite things about, like, I mean, Longview music scene is so funny because it's so small, so disorganized, but when it's a thing, it's a thing. And then when it breaks down, it really breaks down. You see the people because they're not celebrities. But, I mean, like, in a small town, everyone knows each other, and you just kind of know what people do, and you're like, oh crap, that person does that, you know, because I've been there too, and it's really cool when you kind of get up front with them and like you get to know them, and if you like them or you don't, you just realize that like this is the movement that's happening, like these people are a part of what's happening, and it's so much better when you find out that they're just friends. That they just want to hang out.
Like after our first show, we just straight up afterwards, we all just hung out and had fun as people and as friends.
Yeah.
Just drank beer and stood around in the kitchen.
I had a few drinks or 2 or 5.
Yeah.
It was wonderful to just like, it was just
great.
like watching those guys like get off the stage and just having people, and like myself included, just be awestruck at the beautiful sounds they had created. And then like, we're talking as friends afterwards, and like we just put all that aside. Like, it was just like totally different, totally unreal experience.
Yeah,
and
dude, I think that we have something truly beautiful here with a town like ours, right? We have It is a small town, certainly. You know, the Kelso, Longview, Castle Rock, Kalama, Woodland, like it's all kind of like, you know, Cowlitz County, but there's all kind of like, it's a small town, but it's huge. Like it's big, and it's right between Seattle and Olympia, and it's right between Portland. And so we do kind of have like an intense small town. We're like the ultimate small town, right? Like we're the popular small town. And I think that being like doing what you guys are doing, by literally just being genuine, like from the bottom of your hearts, people just exploring what you're exploring, it's really creating this like reach of community. So you guys are talking about Talissa and Sison and working with me and working with Steven and Tack and working with all these people, is you're kind of bringing up the community with you. And Erik, you were in the DJ scene for a while, and so you were also dipping into the hip hop scene. And so you know how a lot of the DJ and the hip hop scene, it is inherently, whether they realize all the time or not, it's kind of verses. It's not we're together.
Yeah,
but this thing is the most authentic, like real. It's really like
you can feel it.
You're just watering it, and it's bringing people with you. And I think like the importance speaks for itself. And you guys getting like all this, like this huge tour you're about to go on, that not huge tour, but local, good enjoyable, shows, like, hey, here's what we're doing with our life right now. It's so good. Like we have moments where we text in the group message, like every couple days, at least one of us is like, dude, I fucking love you guys. Like it's great. I mean, I think that reaching for these things, like look at your community. Stop looking so far on social media. You know, listener,
yes,
if you're a musician, please, like just look at what's around you. Look at the awesome dudes you have next to you, the chicks you have next to you, the people who are good at this thing and that thing. Just start combining them. Like, hey, you're a videographer. Can you come over and like teach me a couple things, and I'll teach you something about music and whatever. And you start making things together. We all have these little communities we forget about because we're like, let's look on the internet and who's the hottest because I want to work with them.
It's so important that people like look at it, that we're in that position, because people look so dependently on the internet, and like I feel like people feel empowered to do their own thing without knowing what their own thing is by being fed so much input, you know, and it's distracting because I get it myself, and like it's probably because I had an idea of what I was doing before I was exposed to so much internet, you know. I was definitely involved in music and playing guitar and being like, yeah, before fucking MySpace even came around, you know, and like that was
MySpace was huge for music too, though.
That was seventh grade, sixth
emo
grade.
bands. Oh yeah, dude.
I was in it. Like I was like putting these emo bands, like Under Oath was definitely in my top 14 friends. They weren't in my top 8 friends, but I was like in 8th grade, and I was like, I only need 2 rows because I'm too cool for that. You know.
What's dope about my listeners is they know MySpace. Like looking at my ages, like they had fucking MySpace.
Yeah.
You bet.
What a weird thing, you know, because like it definitely came around, and like people are always like, oh yeah, Tom came and dipped. I don't know nothing about that guy. I just know that Justin Timberlake was a huge factor in keeping MySpace.
Yeah,
he bought it.
He bought it and tried to revive it, and then it went bankrupt.
Tried to bring sexy
again,
back.
And tried to.
Work.
In the glitter graphics failed.
Going back to the community thing, though, you know, the community thing with Rosetan is that it's also bigger than like what's happening with Rosetan and the Rosetan content. This is also something that's continuing with like the people that we play with, right? Our next show, we have David Robbins, who's the frontman for Alpine Grace. They're a great local band. What I'm more excited for, because I played with him before, I've heard him a bunch, I know this talent, but this guy Mason, Mason John is playing, and he's someone that I saw playing like in bands. He was older than me in high school.
Great personality guy. I've honestly never seen him, but such an admirable person and a just great supporter.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And then we just kind of started chatting. He's come to like all of our shows. He comes and sees me play like solo guitar in places, and he's always been so supportive. And I was like, "You still playing, man? Like, let's get you up there again, right?" That's community, right? What's competitive? Like, of course you do. I want him to succeed, and he's like, absolutely, man. Like, definitely, let's do that. And I think that's like a really important thing.
At any point where you have like exclusivity, I feel like you're shunning like community, because if your judgment can determine like what's exclusive or inclusive, then how is that a community, you know?
I think and one thing that I truly believe is like the best way for us to have success as a band, as Rosetan, is to have our community and to have other artists behind us, and then for us to be behind them if they want to be successful, right? That's the only way that's going to happen. If someone like for us to get booked at the McMinimans venues and for us to get greenlit by So Far Sounds, I had to have musical references. I had to tell them who I have played with individually to give merit as to why my band is worthy of playing those places, right? Kind of freaky. So,
what'd you do? What'd you say?
My past thankfully is filled with it's not worth name dropping, but like my past is filled with some really cool people, and just threw down that list, and it's that list is unfortunately a pretty quick green light in those conversations, because they go, oh, you've done serious stuff.
But the music that they even reached out to you from, so was it So Far Sounds that found you guys on Bandcamp, or there was something where, how'd you guys, what is So Far Sounds actually?
So Far Sounds is something that I was hired to play guitar for a singer out of Brooklyn, playing some music that like is just not my style, right? But it's a gig, right? Like being successful in music doesn't mean like you as an individual are busting out numbers. Being successful in music is having consistent work, in my opinion. And so I do a lot of gigs I play guitar for other people a lot. And she was doing a So Far Sounds show, and I am an ambient guitar player by nature and stuff, and so I introduced a lot of things like that. And she wanted to do a Bon Iver version of I Don't Want to Lose Your Love by The Outfield. And that's where I got the idea for one of our arrangements too. And I just really let the whole crowd have it there as far as my effects go and my abilities. I knew this was my chance to really prove myself in front of a lot of musicians. There's a band touring through Germany that was headlining. So just a lot of people that I wanted to really show like I'm talented too, right? This is where all of that schooling, all of that learning from good teachers, all those hours of practice, it's for times like that.
Well, but how'd you find the right moment to do that? Because that's also another art, right? Mm-hmm. Finding the right moment to show off, you know?
Oh,
a little
right.
bit like let me flirt with you a little bit, but I'm still here for the gig.
Yeah,
right? You're good at that.
I think the maturity comes with the more you play, you know when the space is yours. It's really hard to explain that. That's another conversation, but still.
Something you can watch, though. You can watch it.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, you can definitely watch it happen on stage. It's communication. I love seeing it. Yeah, it's a blast, man. And it comes kind of natural, especially when you play with people more, right? Now, with this thing, it's 2 hired musicians and a singer. We had an hour of rehearsal in that afternoon, and then we're going up there and playing this set. But the owner of this, So Far Sounds, it's like they're in every major city
around the world, like 400 and something cities in the world. Okay, and every week, like in Portland, every Wednesday, there's a live secret show somewhere. So you buy a ticket online, and then the day of the show, you get sent a text or an email with the address of where that show is. And that's where you go. You don't know who the artists are. You don't know anything about it. And it's a way to get unknown artists and traveling artists work while touring through cities between shows, or that is their tour. And it's just the whole idea is community, right? Now, this is where I learned from this. So put that to the side, okay? The booking agent for So Far Portland offered me her contact info to me as an individual. She's like, do you have any solo stuff? Usually they talked about blah, 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 something about Rosetan, and I was like, and that it wasn't even formed at this point. I was like, yeah, I
was the acoustic EP that we did?
No, it wasn't even done yet.
Oh,
I just had that Instagram page with 20 followers and a couple weird auto-tune songs, and I was like, yeah, but it's not this. I mean, yeah, I have something, but I will soon, right? So there's always been motivation to get this done, because someone at a high level quality of booking was like, I want whatever you have. Okay.
Show it to me.
Yeah, right. So it's like, okay, I better put that together. Okay. And so fast forward to a few weeks ago, I sent out like 40 something emails, and one was to her, and then also going through the So Far Sounds process of, getting verified there and whatever they do there. It's like they do a lot of quality control. Like, not everyone plays, which is something I really enjoy. Like they say, if you don't hear within 14 days, you can reapply in 6 months. Because that way you can't spam them. McMinimans does the same thing. If they pass on you, don't knock on their door for another 6 months. Because that also encourages you. You can get better. Dude, you can get better. Why not?
I like that. That's a simple policy that kind of sets your foot down a little bit.
Quality control is the most important thing in all levels of content that people are drastically ignoring. There is a learning curve, and learning curves are necessary, and every artist goes through them. But quality control, being a part of some major production things where I was the fly on the wall or the smallest piece of it.
What's your perspective of quality? Because I want to know what you're controlling.
Ooh.
Yeah. So I think you would agree, like, when a guitar sounds good or bad.
Yeah.
Right. So quality control is simply being like, no, I don't want that in the final recording.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's just like cutting the fat off.
Right.
Just
choosing to have Talissa do our photos for the Instagram page
rather than me, because if I did them, they'd be pictures of ham.
Rose ham. That's back to
no, but the quality, that's why Talissa did like our first, like, it did a run of photos for us, because I wanted it. I wanted to present ourselves at a level of, like, and it takes seeing something at a certain level to understand why something could be a certain way and maybe how it functions. So I get that not everyone has that luxury or opportunity. That's why I take the stuff that I'm very grateful for, the stuff and the people I've been around. And so that's why, like, I want to take that stuff that I learned and put that forward into what we're doing.
It's finally makes sense now, because since day one, I've heard you talk about quality control.
Dude,
and like, as a brand new, I wouldn't say musician.
It does sound a little sterile. I get it doesn't sound very like creative.
As a brand new bandmate, as somebody just getting into the, I wouldn't say the art phase, because I've been in the art for 12 years now, the majority of my life. Somebody just getting into like the meat and the potatoes of what it means to be a guitar player, like in real life situations, I've heard the words quality control a lot, and I'd be like, does that mean not playing wrong notes, or what does that mean?
Do you guys remember that scene in The Office where like they're asking Creed, they're like, what do you do? He's like, Quality Auschwitz.
What?
I mean, quality assurance.
Creed is so underrated in The Office.
Dude, the Halloween episode where he's covered in blood, and they go, "Oh, I like your costume," and it cuts to him in the side of him, and he goes, "That was like that was like a great coincidence, or like what a lucky break or something. It's just so
Whoever writes for his character is so out of nowhere.
He does.
Yes,
I swear to God,
just, like,
he's actual Creed. Dude.
My favorite Creed like moment is like, I'm growing mung beans.
And he pulls out the drawer.
Yeah, the drawer. I'm sprouting mung beans.
My favorite Creed moment is hold me now. I'm 6 feet from the edge, and I'm thinking.
But hey,
For half of that,
on a serious note, I definitely didn't finish my point about community, and I think it's one of the most important points I have to make in this podcast
I
at
thought
all.
you guys were gonna hop in on that, but let's go back community.
Yep. So,
Yeah, music stuff.
so with the community thing, so we got to quality control because of like people that I want to play with, right? Community also goes along with that. Wanting to become friends with the Wildish, already being friends with you, and then me personally, I already knew a lot of the members of the Wildish, and like either going to school with them or playing music in a past life with them and stuff. Like really nice, just awesome dudes. So wanting to play with them, knowing that they're from here, knowing that they're a part of this community and their roots. Okay. Yeah. David Robbins and his band Alpine Grace, Castle Rock rooted, spread throughout Cowlitz County rooted. Father, local musician. There's some heritage there, right? He has a sense of duty as a local musician too. Like he kind of knows the process of things, and his David Robbins. Yeah. And his performance and his stage presence is great. His songwriting is actually really, really incredible, to be honest. They have a new song called Bad Man Do. Dude, it's actually really good.
I didn't listen to it.
It's super good, man. I really recommend it. Mad 70s vibes. It's really good, man. They like, which is like, and that's just something. That's why I'm excited to have David Robbins there, do some solo acoustic stuff, because I like to see what he can do. Like when he just like, here's what and then for future shows, we played our first show together, right? And then like the second show, I'll take one of those guys with me, and then the third show, I'll take another guy from that first show and take him with us, right? Or like in Ellensburg, I have a friend that I lived with in downtown Bellevue, and he's going to open for us, and that'll be a part of our community, and we're going to insert ourselves in the Ellensburg music community. And there is a good music community there because of Central Washington University, and a lot of artists apparently go there to retire, which I didn't know. And they have a couple of great venues there, or they have about 3 venues that are worth your time and money as a musician who's like can travel. And so we're going to play one this month, and then we're going to go back to Ellensburg in February. And the point of that is that we met you this first time. I want to make an impression. We're going to make personal connections to where it's like, hey, if you like this now, we'll be back next month. Guess who they're going to bring? Their friends that didn't see us last time. Right? And that's the sense of community. Like, because you want your following to be a community. You don't want like, there's like,
when it's this enjoyable thing where you get to meet them too. Like,
I don't have any.
Here's something I can boil it down to, which was a question I think about a lot. Is like, do you guys feel responsibility from status? Do you feel responsibility from stature, and what that elevation provides for you, and what people might expect from it? Like, because I think about that a lot, and maybe it's unfortunate that it determines a lot of what I do, but at the same time, I don't know. What do you guys think?
Are you talking about holding yourself to standards publicly, like as
when you're going on
representing
these shows,
Rosetan?
or?
No, I'm just thinking about like objectively thinking about how people look at people in our situation, like hey, you have a stature as someone who does this, but it's like at the same time we're also people who are making opportunities for ourselves, and that makes me feel like I have a responsibility, but I don't know where to channel that responsibility, and maybe it should be into enriching what I'm doing.
Are you talking about music
enriching
wise?
others?
Wait,
yeah,
I think
absolutely.
Jake Wilson, I think I know what you mean. So
Yeah.
I think you are already doing it, and what I mean is this. I think what Erik was just explaining is that Erik has had a lot of mentors in his life. Yeah. And Jake Wilson, I don't think we clarified, you're also in the Wildish band. You're in Rosetan and Wildish.
Yeah.
Right. I think that kind of what Erik was getting at is exactly the answer to what you're saying, is by building this community, and by, hey, we have this show here, we're of course going to bring this guy from our community. I think by stepping up to the plate and saying, hey, we're going to do our best. So guys that are underneath us or that are next to us, right? You know,
Yeah, definitely not underneath. That's really important.
Of course, not underneath us. I mean, people who are.
I mean, like
newer
on a
bands,
show bill, there's an
course.
opener, there's a headliner, but
Right.
the community is that we're all
Not underneath.
we're all like
Yeah.
in
Don't obsess on that word,
a pool of, you know, like we're in this
Right.
together, man.
Yeah,
Like, that's the whole deal.
But by so Jake Wilson, by you going into Wildish or Rosetan as your 100%, I'm going to show up, I'm going to really do my thing. That gives permission, and that also builds the community of the people who are watching you, people who are going to be on stage next to you, before you, whatever, to be like, okay, Jake Wilson showed out, Erik Nordin showed out, Jacob Carrol showed out.
So
I
do I have a sense of responsibility? Absolutely. My sense of responsibility was to like get this community going, because like, so in high school, I'm sure you can remember this. You've been playing for a while, right? Like in high school, there were like some bands that were like doing stuff around here, man. There were some shows to go to,
Broadway
right?
calls.
Yeah, man, exactly.
Most
right?
importantly, there were venues. There's places
oof.
for bands to go that was really easy.
Dude,
Yeah.
I was
Really
a 14-year-old punk kid, just like somehow getting
Getting the
snuck into
reads.
these
Kennedy's,
places.
Reeds, Minus World.
Minus World.
You know,
they were super cool.
Even
They
the
were
Quesadilla
wonderful.
Factory up in
Sure.
like we as Amerton Forest opened up for from Indian Lakes up at friggin' Quesadilla Factory. Like and then like Let Live was playing there a week later, and then they stopped. You know,
I remember Minus World. Like I was
Minus
too
World
young.
was good.
Like, cause I'm a little bit younger than you guys, so like I was too young to go there for like shows, but like I loved the place because they had a dope ass arcade in there.
Yeah, so
that's
Minus
cool.
World for listeners was a burger bar, arcade bar, and then they also had a small venue for local artists, and they had a bunch of dope bands playing in there. Yeah.
I'll never forget
there was so sick.
There was a Gamblers Die Broke show with Sea Cats, and Amerton
Cats.
Forest was there, and somebody like there was like sharded glass on the floor, and somebody cut their foot and was like skanking the entire night, and there's blood on the dance floor, not like the bad kind,
Not like the bad band from like 2011.
not like the shit,
Come on.
but like the literal blood on the dance floor. Yeah, sorry, oops.
Oops.
Is it past 10 o'clock? Is this like late night?
This
or
is
late
the
This
night?
is the late night
show.
podcast.
Okay, good.
Dude, Late night TV.
It's still late
listen,
night. Oops.
Listen, this podcast, we're just some homies hanging out, having a couple drinks. We're just kicking back. This is a band I work
A
with.
couple.
very
You should see the
closely. We're
table
just
in
hanging
front of
late,
me.
late.
Let's be
We've all had a
realistic
couple
now.
Drinks. We're just hanging out.
I have the
Dude, hey, really though,
biggest
Jake,
bottle
that's the
of
best
Aquafina.
thing about this podcast, though, is people really do like that. I get texts all the time. I get messages all the time.
That's
People
good,
like the
man.
authenticity. We're just hanging out. We're not. That's the thing about your band too, is you're not claiming to be anything crazy. You know, you're just like you. There is moments where Erik, of course, you're noticing like, oh, we are mentors, right? Like in ways, like not that you're trying to be like, I'm your
sense of
mentor.
responsibility that Jake Wilson.
I get it now. I
Yes.
get what Jake's
that's,
saying.
That's the
Yeah.
sense of responsibility. So yes, I do feel, and I think we already have a sense of responsibility individual, and we feel that by the people that you invite over from time to time, who like by the random people you invite over to try and do something creative or just to hang out and mess around on stuff, or the people that you take time to go hang around and strum a few chords with and stuff like that, right? That is fulfilling your responsibility to the music community by small actions, just as like, let's say, just because I have a long background in like church stuff, just like your responsibility as a Christian is not to be like the best Christian in the world. It's like these small acts of like goodness are important and stuff, and they do not make you a perfect person, and that's not what validates you to get into heaven. It's just like something that's like important to do as a person, right? Which is outside of Christianity. So I don't know why I put faith on that. You should just be doing good things.
I think it's
Just
relatable.
And like,
No, that was a good
Totally
example.
is.
That made sense. So I like that.
Yeah,
That made sense.
and like, I think if there's any musicians listening to this, or who have seen us live, or follow us on Instagram or
At
Bandcamp,
Rosetan Band.
yeah, or at Rosetan Band, or Instagram or Bandcamp,
Jake.
or have just or have just heard about us or whatever. Just one thing, just one thing that I've learned from these guys and like from playing live and all that is just like, as a musician or as an artist or anybody, share your art, man.
Oh,
Don't
absolutely.
apologize for
There's
it. That's
nothing to
that
hide.
is
Yeah, be unapologetic.
that
Damn
is
right.
one thing
Yeah.
that Erik has taught me, and that Jake Rhines has taught me, and Jake Wilson has taught me, is if you have something worth sharing, don't sit on it, man. Like share it, especially like Like, I don't know, I might
for
have
the right reasons.
for the right, yeah.
And the right reasons is a part of quality control.
Definitely,
it's such a sterile
definitely.
statement, but it's about, like, if you have something that's so important and you want to share it, like, I get that you're not going to become the best guitar player in the world before you share it, but like the people that like find success really early on in their music stages, like people that like their first 2 Spotify releases, just boom, boom, right? They blow up. It's because they knew the level of quality that they had to put in for their first statement to make impact.
If you're showing it to
Like-
your audience, make sure that it's ready for someone who's not your audience.
Wow.
Whoa.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
another
Nice.
Jake
You've worked with
Wilson.
a lot of people, I can tell.
That's
Yeah.
another.
That's how I can tell you've worked with a lot of musicians. Like that's such a
It's
there's
troublesome.
that was a guy with like a rainier in his hand out of fire. He's like Bellingham is like, if there's anything I want to say about music.
The best part is I don't even remember what I said anymore.
See, and that's community.
Amen.
But in all seriousness, I think that's our want, and it's not about individual praise. It's about there's been in Cowlitz County in Longview, there's been a hole in music where unfortunately there's been a couple of attempts to open venues by some churches and stuff, and I love their heart for wanting artists and music to happen, but art dies in a church, in my opinion. Like there's I'm throwing it down. This is like I've been around it too much. There's standards and a stranglehold of what you can and can't do when you perform in this building that we have done here, and it's like, so there's no place that artists can go and truly unapologetically do their thing.
There's a lack of desire to support those artists from those people.
Yes.
It's
It's a
more of
constriction,
a
not a debt, I
of
would
waiting
say.
for
Yeah,
people
okay, sure.
to support their cause, and that's dangerous. Like in a capitalist mindset,
It's not community. I know that
dangerous
much.
in a socialist mindset.
Yeah.
Do you guys
know?
think that it is like,
It's not
I mean, on this
That's my big thing.
podcast, I really talk about like I put my tinfoil hat on often, I talk about like
Do you have one to
society's
share?
weirdness. I'll make you one, baby.
Yeah.
But do you guys feel like maybe like, because you're all smart, we all listen to a ton of podcasts, we all talk about like AI and aliens and all this cool stuff in society and whatever. Do you guys feel a little bit of an obligation almost to like, I don't know, like
Find aliens.
exactly
Yes.
that's
Sorry,
what
keep going. I didn't mean to.
Absolutely.
but no, like we're talking about community a lot, and I feel like until I really started talking about it and started feeling it myself and started like allowing myself to be a person in this community where I live, like allowing myself to be like, hey Jake, it's okay that like sometimes you haven't brushed your teeth yet and you're walking down to the PO box, like to me, I know that sounds silly, I know that's not community, but to me that's like a little bit, it feels a little more like home to me. To someone with my upbringing, little things like that make it feel like home.
Yeah.
And I think that community is built within each of us, of course, but there's an overlying structure that we're all building. And I think that now more than ever is an important time for us to look at like, hey, our community thing, because of all these new things, all this internet and whatever, is a little bit different than it used to be.
Do you think community is amplified identity, like identity, like in multiple people, or do you think it's more of just like multiple, different people being able to make it work?
Jake, let me go off that.
Yeah.
So this whole time that we've been hanging out, doing band stuff, doing friend stuff, Erik has really been introducing to me the idea of community, and so have you, and so is Jake. And like, at first I didn't know what it meant. It was just a word. You're like, oh, community, that's a group of people living together for a common goal, whatever. But I've gone out to eat with you guys, gone to the store with you guys, gone on walks, gone to like our beach trip. Wonderful. Just like community to me, it was like when we go in those mom and pop restaurants and maybe they throw in an extra fry for us or something like that, and we just look them in the eyes and go, wow, I appreciate you. Thank you
There's
so much.
an onion ring in your fries.
There's
Just
an onion
one
ring. Wow, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Even on the way out of your gas station after buying a Red Bull, just being like, hey, I appreciate you. Hope you have a great day. To me, that's community.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That
Nice.
connection,
That's
like,
so cool.
hey, I see you're a person.
Yeah,
you're a person.
definitely.
You're living
And, like,
here. I'm living here now
That's
too.
like
I'm so
And
happy.
Yeah, no, guys, I think that it is very important. I think that, I mean, we've extensively talked about community. I think that the most important thing to narrow this down is community is within all of us, and it's all our responsibility. Every single person, if you're a human in this world, the community that surrounds you, whether that's the people immediately around you or the people on the internet that share the same things that you're into, whether it's the bandmates that you hang out with, whether it's the people that are looking up to you, whether it's the young kids, whether it's the people who are the same age as you, who are in the same community, you kind of have a responsibility. So I think just knowing that at all times you are, whatever you're doing, you're building a community. What community are you going to build?
Definitely. I want to touch on this. Back to the community thing, like you were just saying, the oddest thing to me was after a couple shows that we've done, some guys and girls that I've never seen before in my entire life. And this is not me being like big-headed or anything like that. It's just like community thing. Like they've taken the time to come up to me and be genuine, be like, "Hey, I really like what you guys did up there. That sounded good."
Yeah.
And I would just be like, instead of just being
That's
like,
all
"Oh
you do,
yeah, I know," just be like, "Oh, thank you." Maybe shake their hand, give them a hug if they want it. Just be like, "Hey, thanks for coming out. Like that's awesome. Glad to meet you, man." And then just like being, as Rosetan, we talk about this a lot. And just as Erik and Jake, we talk about this a lot. It's just like
Erik, why are your eyes closed, buddy?
The grimace.
the grimace
Where?
on Eric's
What?
face.
How?
Just
Impossible.
like, we talk about this a lot. It's just like being incredibly genuine. Being
He has to
incredibly
put it up to the microphone, even though it's incredibly silent. It's just the look on his face.
This edit is going to take me a really long time.
Just being incredibly genuine as people. And this goes back to buying a Red Bull at the gas station and looking the person in the eyes and maybe making more than small talk.
And to go off this being genuine thing, to tie it all the way back to what I was saying about like getting your start honestly, musically and stuff, like I've made so many mistakes. Like the only reason why this feels good right now and why we're doing the right thing is because I've done the wrong thing constantly.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, like it's a learning curve. It's like this community is also a part of my personal maturity.
Totally.
Right.
Amen.
One thing I think that a lot of people, in my small teachings, and I do like a little bit of coaching for a few people, the huge jump for a lot of people is realizing that they can even improve, right? Realizing that they're even in the place to where they can be like, "Oh, I am the mentor. People are looking up to me."
I can see
that was
be hard to see how to improve because as creators we are spoiled in the sense that there's a gauge of good and bad in a realm of talent.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel great sympathy towards people that don't have a creative outlet in this, and not in like I feel so sorry, but it's just like I don't know how I could cope with certain emotions without doing music, and so they have to find, and so that's why people find other mediums that are really well, like other some people do like the adult watercoloring books and stuff, and like they have to do it every night. Like I know there's a couple of people I've been talking to about that over the weekend and stuff.
That's such a cool outlet to find, by the way. Holy shit.
Right.
Yeah,
Great.
seriously.
And
Dude,
that's
if
it.
that helps you feel
I
better,
wish something
oh my gosh.
made me pick up a paintbrush for once.
Right. but it's like, it's something that's like not too hard as far as like the skill level needed, but you're getting something out, and there's something about a creative medium, no matter how low that scale is, that really is processing something.
We have an inherent need to be creative, and I think even like something like as to me, like as a musician, and like totally like I think it's like right brain, like totally like artist feeling sort of mentality, way of feeling out my human experience. Like I even view construction workers and architects as artists as well. Absolutely. It's like that is
Whoa.
their way.
Yeah, mathematical artists too.
That is their like people who like fractal geometry. Like that's that.
I don't think construction workers are doing fractal.
No, I don't think construction workers are doing fractal geometry, but like,
they're contributing to the fractal geometry.
that is like
Right.
like theoretical math. Like it's not real. Like I'm gonna get like way far out here right now, but like music isn't real.
Music isn't real. Explain,
like,
Jake Carrol. Explain what you mean by music.
Like it is, but it
Eric's
isn't
writing
because
his entire book. He's
because
going 1,000 pages.
listen to this because because I can listen to a song and I'm like, this is the greatest song to ever exist. And Jake Wilson can listen to a song and be like, this song fucking sucks. And just like, it's
I would never
subjective.
do that.
I can look at a painting and be like, this painting sucks dick. And then Eric can look at the painting and be like, this is my favorite painting of all time.
I got a great rebuttal for this.
You know what I'm trying to say here?
I got a great rebuttal for this, though. I watched a 4-part jazz documentary at the age of 17, where the first 2 episodes were no. It's cause it's so important because it rooted something at a weird teenage age.
This is like when I watched claymation documentaries at age 17.
Like the first 2 episodes were about these West Coast swing guys, where it's all about learning the tradition of something. Like, you gotta study Coltrane, you gotta learn that swing, you gotta stay home with that stuff, right? And the guys on the East Coast and the other 2 episodes are like, fuck Coltrane! Like, they're just like I don't give a shit. And you're like, well, that's not nice and stuff like that. And it's like, well, why? Why are you guys so aggressive about what other people? It's like, because everyone's saying they're artists and they're wrong. And it's like, okay, what's going on? And this guy in this interview goes, look, not everyone says any expression can be art, and that's fucking bullshit. Like, this guy's like smoking a cigarette and he's just heated, right? Which is what all East Coast jazz musicians are like. I feel like.
And he
all
probably
East Coast
loved
people.
David Byrne. He probably loved that shit. I love David Byrne.
That's fine. That's good.
Yeah.
But he goes, anyone, he's like, a baby, like, not all expression is art. A baby crying in its crib is obviously expressing itself, but you'd be retarded to call that art.
A baby in his crib?
Crying. Like, the baby's clearly expressing itself, but and to be clear, that's not how harsh I personally think of that. I am quoting how angry this man was about quoting this.
If you like splattered paint on the baby,
I like where this is going.
and gave it cilantro toppings, but didn't eat it. No. Just tempted you slightly. Yo, Alan Parsons Project took Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven with a vocoder back in like 1970 whatever.
Parsons?
Alan Parsons, man. You remember him from Austin Powers when Dr. Evil says, I call it the Alan Parsons Project. Right. Yeah, but that was a band, man.
Yeah, no.
They did that.
My grandma
song.
gave me an Alan Parsons Project vinyl. Which one? It's the one with like the 2 ladies on it, and they're like wearing veils over their faces. I don't know. I listened to the album and it was really weird. Alan Parsons. I'm sorry if you like Alan Parsons Project, but to me, I just didn't get it.
Bro, Alan Parsons, he's a producer, and he made some of the best albums. For one, he was an engineer at Abbey Road Studios for like 20, 30 years of his career, and he definitely did the Beatles. And he did like The Year of the Cat, and he made The Eye of the Sky, and he did all of these things.
Good music things that Jake Wilson does.
That became yacht rock.
Yo, listen, guys, to anybody listening to this, if you ever meet Jake Wilson out in public, he will put you on to some music you've never known existed, but you will love it. I'll be like, I never even knew. He will tell you. Okay. He will tell you what year it was produced, who wrote it, who produced it, and you will love it.
In a title and 2 sentences from each of us, if we're going to show currently in our time, like right now with what we're currently listening to, won't be like individually. What album are you gonna show a person right now? Like what? Like oh, dude, I love this album. You gotta hear this. Go.
Ooh.
Or if it's not a full album, just an artist and a song is fine.
And that's like right now.
Full album?
Right now. And it could be something historic or it could be something you're onto right now.
Dude,
I like the idea of the momentum you currently have.
The momentum I currently have.
Yes.
Wow, it is honestly can I do a tie right now?
Sure, that's fine.
Okay. Wow, this is quite the tie, and anybody who's listening to this is going to be like, what in the actual fuck, Jake? Yeah. But it is a tie between Mac DeMarco 2. Yes! The 2. Yeah, I know Jake would like that. Yes. The Mac DeMarco 2 album. It is incredible, dude. Because I listened to Chamber of Reflection, obviously. Obviously, I've listened to Chamber of Reflection. I love that song. Yes, exactly.
Is this hip hop, right? For any listeners who want?
No, this Mac DeMarco is like, how would you explain it, Jake? Like indie almost?
It's a gap-toothed Canadian, sarcastic indie.
Exactly. Yeah. So I've been listening to a lot of Mac DeMarco lately. I got into the 2 album, produced in 2012, actually.
It was. I actually my period for this album, because that album, I don't think it came out in 2012. I think it came out like 2 years later. Are you sure? I've nothing to base that off of other than
I have
that's when I
Spotify to
listened
base
to
it
it.
off of.
So maybe I listened to it too many years
Okay,
too late.
So it's
Chamber of Reflection.
no, that's not on 2.
Oh, never
Just
mind.
the whole album. I've been listening to 2,
Yep, that's
like
where I'm at.
compulsively listening to that whole
Wrong.
album. Cause it's just like such a grab bag of like music. Like there's some it's just him and a guitar, which I love, because like Chamber of Reflection, like what most people know him for, is like so much different. There's like synth and drums
What
and all.
about good old Viceroy, man?
But
What's the second artist you had as a tie?
okay, so this is really gonna throw people for a loop if they know, but it's surprisingly not. It's Death Grips. Death Grips, The Money Store. And the first time I heard Death Grips, I saw on YouTube the music video for their song Guillotine. I know it's guillotine, but he says guillotine in the song. And I was like, this is fucking weird, and it kind of sucks. And I never touched him again. And then my little brother actually was like, I showed him that song kind of like as a joke, as a meme. He started listening to them again, and he goes, yo, you should really give them, my little brother, he's so open musically, and I love him for it. Like, he will listen to anything you put in. His name is Ty.
Yes,
My little brother. Yeah.
You know what? Funny story with Ty is at Antidote, our last show. I saw him and I was like, brother, it's great to see you. And like, funny thing is like, I'd met Ty before, but the problem was I thought he was somebody else. And it was,
Classic problem.
Right.
Classic problem.
and he was totally blindsided by the hug and like and everything. I was like, oh shit, wow, this is not the David that I thought you were. This is not who I thought you were, but we still know each other, so this is more than what you knew but expected, you know. Right, it was I just had to take it. Follow through.
We were talking about a year ago, and he was like, hey, I actually listened to like a full Death Grips album, and you should really give him a second thought. And I was like, nah, it's just noise. It's just noise and yelling. That's all it is. And so I actually sat down with some good headphones, and I listened to the whole The Money Store album. And the more I listened to it, the more I became in love with it. And I really think anybody out there listening to this should listen to the Money Store album, especially Get Got. Get Got by Death Grips. It's so aggressive. You probably will
Can you say
not
what
like
type
it.
of music it is, like just in case
I
you're
have
into
no
it or not?
fucking idea.
Oh my gosh.
Experimental hip hop at best.
Fucking, that sounds great.
It's aggressive as hell. It's your Death Grips. But anybody
The
who
first
knows
one's Mac
Death Grips
DeMarco.
and likes Death Grips is gonna fucking love me for saying this.
I'm definitely gonna check them out. Jake
But
Carrol, I haven't checked out
Mac DeMarco and Death Grips are definitely completely opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah. Dude, all
they
of
are
us
not
listen
the
to so much
same
different
at
music.
all.
It's-
And my musical taste is so across the board. It's so across the board. I've been super into reggae for like the past 8 years.
You are a reggae boy for sure.
Super.
There's no doubt about that.
Reggae has like.
Who's your reggae? Before we go on, but who's your reggae? Like, so Revolution. Do you like?
Revolution? Yes.
Who else? Who else in the reggae world? Because there's so many good underrated.
Dude, there's
reggae.
so as for like modern, Tribal Seeds is absolutely killing it right now. So like Revolution and like Sublime and Pepper, if you've ever heard of them, they kind of take the more California reggae. Like if you ever heard Sublime, they kind of go that route, more like rock reggae. But Tribal Seeds takes the like old school, like Bob Marley, Steel Pulse, Black Uhuru, just sort of like more dub. Like if you were to like listen to reggae, that's
That shit just makes you want to close your eyes, right? Like, you just wanna just
exactly.
vibe
Turn
to
up the
it.
bass. Like with reggae, it's just like it's just super bass groovy. You're following the do 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 do. and you just say
Snoop Dogg was Snoop Lion.
Snoop Lion. Oh my god,
That was my favorite
But anyway,
shit.
yeah, it's like
Oh my god.
Yo, I want to listen back to that because I didn't give it I think I actually probably made fun of it more than anything.
No, I
did too.
listened to it
But
so much.
Is it good?
Is
Is it good?
No matter if there were moments where I was laughing and be like, "This is fucking like hilarious," or like I'm jiving with this. Like I was getting high to all of it. I was smoking that reefer. It was like 2013, 2014. Boom.
that's exactly when I discovered reggae. Actually,
Yeah.
I went over to one of my friend's house and she was playing Revolution, and I was like,
choice,
"Yo,"
friend.
I was like, "Yo, who is this?" I was like, "This is amazing," and she's like, "Oh, it's Revolution."
Who
like,
is this?
and so I got home that night and I put on Revolution Pandora, and I discovered I was like, "Wow, reggae is an actually scene." This was like back in 2013.
Oh yeah.
I was like, reggae is like
Well, it's
actually
not
a
all
huge
super
culture.
intense.
It's not. It's not.
listenable music.
So like in reggae, there's like California reggae, which is like super popular in the U.S. There's bands like Revolution, Iration, Pepper,
Then you got like your
and then you
dancehall
have like
stuff.
dub
Dub,
reggae,
yeah.
like Tribal Seeds, Dennis Brown, like super bass heavy, roots reggae. You know, so like my music taste is incredibly varied. Like at the far end, it's Mac DeMarco, and at the other end, it's fucking Death Grips.
You know what we need to do, Eric, is every time, because we're going to have a few Rosetan podcasts, I would presume.
Oh, I
We're
hope
such
so.
good friends. I feel like we should make sure, Eric, try to remember this. We should always, at the time of that podcast, we should be like, "What's your what are you listening to right now?" Because, dude, I know you guys
is so interesting.
Like, dude, I know that you guys would be so fucking different every single time because I am
You
too.
guys, I just have to. Sorry, Eric. What were you saying? No. What's up, man? Oh man, I was just gonna give like a special shout out to Half Moon Run, because like
Oh, is that the band you showed me at the
like-
beach?
that's
Okay, wait. I don't know.
if I would show immediately right now, I was actually playing some of it on our way to get you when we were coming from
Okay, well, I wasn't in the car, so
we were crossing across the Astoria Bridge, and I was like having this allergic reaction. If you remember, like I was not vibing with the overcast and the bright lights, and my eyes were like, ugh. And
there's
I
a lot
just
of
get
water to
weird.
reflect off there. The water reflection hits you.
Dude, that's part of it, and the clouds are part of it, and I just get weird reactions to that, and I don't know how to explain it yet or diagnose it. I should go to the doctor, but right. But I found my sunglasses. Did I or no? We didn't find my sunglasses.
So Half Moon Run.
Half Moon Run, but Half Moon Run. They're fantastic, man. It's like you listen to them, you harken back to the Eagles. You harken back to a time you ain't never been in before, and you're like, wow.
Yeah, it's very. I would say it's a very well done modern adaptation of the best '70s music. that
Dude,
I've heard.
it's so interesting because there's even a song like I'd say that their most Eagles-y song is called Black Diamond.
Yeah,
And-
that's on my playlist now. You showed it to me. Yes.
Thank you. It's it's just like it has no embellishment. It just is the song that it is, and you can listen to it and take that perspective from how you hear it. But it's just fantastic because they almost understood that when they made this song that like we don't need a solo, we don't need a crazy like bum bum ba-dum.
Yeah.
But
There's no big
suddenly-
flourishy thing in that song.
But they
it-
puked out the most beautiful little like piece of puke.
Well, I just think that it's like such good songwriting at its core that I didn't need a lot.
Right, and they knew that, which is almost it's that feedback loop that songwriters almost create when they make the best song. Is this feedback loop, like a song that's really
Good
attached,
feedback loop.
like I Want to Be Your Lover by Prince has just been ba, 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 da, ba, da, 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 on my mind so much lately. And it's like and I feel like he's encompassing so many things from like this Jackson 5 to Steely Dan because of when he put that shit out in like 1978, 1979. It's like he's drawing from all these different parts, but then suddenly he's like, boom, I'm going to take them all together. I'm going to play drums. I'm going to play keyboard. I'm going to do guitar. I'm going to sing. And then he makes this one thing. And you're like, wow. Like how did any of that make sense? But you just did it,
Right.
you know?
tells a new story in a completely
He
new
told
way.
a new story.
So above all, would that be your album?
Is
That
that your
would-
album right now? Like if you had to.
Black Diamond. I love that song.
Dude, I'd say Black Diamond because it has an influence. Yeah. Outside of that song, lyrically, that speaks to people who have like problems with addiction. And I mean, it's spoken to me and my own problems and addiction because I've certainly had them with substances, and I've certainly had them with ways of life, and mostly just falling into patterns of dullness.
We have
And-
one, brother.
Oh,
all of us.
wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, all of us.
just routine where you find yourself so deep into something that it's you never expect that it's gonna tell you how much it doesn't mean to you.
And that
you know?
pulls you out of it. Like,
Yeah, but like, someone rebased me. What were we talking about? Because I got so fucking focused on my darkness.
Picking
album.
picking an album that like of stuff like right now. If you're gonna show someone an album, like what's it gonna be right now?
Man, I spent a lot of time on that Black Diamond, A Blemish in the Dark Light.
Yes.
But that,
Makes
but
sense.
but that and Erik Nordin as a transition, he mentioned the new Bon Iver album.
okay.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, the I Call My Eyes.
Spokes so much to me.
Yeah, it's nuts, dude. But I want to hear your album, Mister.
You want to hear my album?
the whole
Okay.
point. Yeah.
I was thinking. So a lot of times, like based off of what I know, this is annoying to do. I'm gonna pick two albums.
That's fine.
But I'm also before that, I'm going to say that it's not super specific right now. There is a lot of times where I'm very, very into like certain albums where I'm just listening to it on repeat.
Yeah, same.
And I'll have those times, but like right now, I'm preparing for a couple shows, and I'm doing a lot of like. I listen to a lot of piano in the background, which literally just on Spotify I do peaceful piano, shuffle it, and I do that like hours and hours a day.
Do you
And
spend
then-
a lot of
and then-
time with like because a piano is like your main interface?
Yeah, I because that's what I've been learning a lot. I spend probably, I mean, lately I've been spending seriously like 4 to 5 hours.
Can I
4 to 5
distract
hours
your
on piano.
question?
Yes.
Because you are someone who like you don't like necessarily play an instrument, but you play an instrument because I've heard you play a piano, and I've heard what it sounds like, but you don't consider. I feel like you don't consider yourself that person who plays an instrument. I feel like you consider yourself a person who presses buttons in the right time and place.
Yeah.
You know, and that so much in and of itself is impactful.
Like part of the music goal as playing an instrument, man, is also identifying it like correctly. And I would have to agree with Mr. Wilson here. Yeah, man.
Oh, I'm so uncomfortable.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. No.
I
wait, hold
appreciate
on.
you guys.
No.
But I do have a little bit of issues with that.
Yeah, no.
I have-
So screw the albums. Look, this is such a good thing. So because I starting with an instrument, you got to have a goal, right? Like that's so important to have. And then it's easy to be discouraged when that goal is not as near as previously thought, and it's also easy to get discouraged. For me, my biggest discouragement comes from comparison, right? Comparison of any other musician, even on other instruments. Like you watch a drummer who's better, who's like great, even though I'm a guitarist, it's like I'll be intimidated to talk to that really great drummer, right? There's still like you feel like there's a looming he's better than you musician
Up
feeling.
next, Ginger Baker.
But Jesus Christ. But the point is like no matter at what level, it's like yeah, like you officially play you play piano now.
Right.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, I think a little bit of what I have issue with is, of course, I understand that it's not incredibly healthy, and I have to give myself a little credit where I need it. But there is a lot of like I'm hanging out with you guys, and so like if you guys were coming into the DJ world and you're all three new DJs, you'd probably be a little reluctant to like show me like or compare what you're working on to what I've been doing for 9 years. You know, so like I don't like calling myself a musician or see I put a weird annotation on that.
But
That's
if you
something
don't-
Well, that's why I've
I
shown you guys
realize.
like one beat that I've made because like I don't know the way of making beats. I don't know the way of like producing like hip hop, but sometimes I make something
And we're
I'm
not
like,
gonna judge you either. Like, I
Well,
don't
like
know why
the
I think
song
you guys
I
would
showed
judge
you
me.
guys
that's what I
today
love.
that I
So
wrote.
grateful for.
I was like, I almost didn't. Like the song I wrote yesterday, and I showed
When you played it
guys
the solid time one through, like,
Yes,
so you got here
yes.
before anybody else did, and you played it like, you're like, hey, let me show you the song, and you played it so solidly through. I was like, yes,
Yes,
I get
yeah.
that so much.
And I was just like, I don't know. I'm not a songwriter. I don't consider myself a songwriter because like, I'm not new to music, but I'm new to songwriting. Like obviously, because like I wanted to make a big shout out to Erik over there. Be like, because like I think last time we rehearsed together, like as a band, I asked him, I was like, yo, what do you think about me like coming to you with a song or something? And he was like, yeah, sure, let's hear it. I was like, all right. And so over the weekend or so, I was just like, I kind of sat down with my guitar, and
Thus is the growth of community.
the growth of community is just like, that's another thing with community, is like being willing to listen to people, what they have to say. Like, even if it's like open mic stuff, like hell yeah, open mic stuff, definitely important. Goes back to what I said earlier, is like, don't be afraid. Like, if you feel like it should be shared,
Right.
with a touch of quality control.
Sure. Well, I think along with that, going back to like calling yourself a piano player or not, if you don't start calling yourself a piano player, then where is the standard where you officially do start calling yourself?
Exactly, dude.
Start,
oh my
start,
god.
Start calling yourself that, so you start taking yourself seriously.
That's what
It was,
You're
it
in
was
it, man.
probably the last few years that I started calling myself a guitar player, even though I've been playing for 10 years.
Nice, dude.
I never wanted to take that upon myself because it
But did you
if
gain
someone,
more work and more ambition from calling yourself that, do you think?
I think so, because the more I conveyed to people that like I play guitar, but I didn't tell people like
You don't have to preface it either, you know
like
what I mean?
oh, I have this all to back me, and like all I could do was be honest and just say, hey, you know, I've done this and that, but I don't have experience with this, because if anything, I just wanted people to know, like, if there was something specific they had in mind, whether or not I had experience in that, because I didn't want to be the reason for why that failed, because that would
We
just
put
be
so much on ourselves sometimes.
Yeah,
I know,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So Eric, what would you say? Because me, I think of things so many layers. So I'm like, if I were to say, if someone's like, hey, do you play piano? And I say yes, instantly, it's the second I say yes, with that yes, just that one word to me is comparing, I guess, but like, what would I say if if Elton John said, hey, Jake, are you a piano player? I would never say yes to him.
Oh.
You know what I mean? So I have a little bit of difficulty.
I get that scale that you're putting.
It's a little
that
necessary.
scale-
Now that I say it out loud, it's so
No.
silly. though.
That scale exists because that's what quality control is. When it's put in a healthy mindset.
But
How do we manage a healthy mindset?
But also,
though, being a new
someone
musician?
like Elton
The
John
piano is
has
new
to
me.
manage how he plays piano, and someone like Elton John, like, I mean, like, I know somewhat about his career. I've been a fan for a long time. I mean, he bases a lot of what he can do off of what others provide him. And some artists work like that. Eric last week was like, hey, I have the yeast for something. And he provided that yeast, and then it started to grow into like this new piece. And for some people like Elton John, who you think are like so fantastic and amazing, his gift is in what he does with his fingers. But when you hear a song, like he hasn't written the lyrics of that. Someone else has done it. But what Elton John has done is he's taken words and he's made them fit into a melody and into a pattern and a theme that makes you realize, like, this is a song. He made Crocodile Rock. He made The Circle of Life. He made all that shit. But someone else wrote the lyrics with a different purpose in mind. And he brought that to life, and that's his purpose.
I think, to keep in this exact metaphor and to keep this conversation, this is a big full circle thing. What I would hope Elton John would do in the situation, if Elton John says, are you a piano player? And say, yes, I'm a piano player. It would be his responsibility in a music community to be encouraging towards you, no matter what your level is. Okay.
If he was like your brother or father.
So your fear and insecurity. So my responsibility as another musician is to know that I have fears and insecurities. Therefore, other musicians do as well. Yeah. Okay. And so if you're really feeding this community and feeding other creators, it's like last night I was hanging out with a bunch of musicians. I was the worst one in the room, man, but I still hung out and had a great time. You know what I mean? But I was also like a better guitar player than some of the singers, right? And so there was something. So they'd be insecure about playing guitar all of a sudden, right?
Did you feel the need to like maybe present yourself differently to them than you would to like if you're in a room where there's a bunch of other musicians? I feel a little confused on like, I guess like you shouldn't present yourself as some hotshot even if you think you are. But
I almost feel like if you're in a position where you know you're the worst person in the room, you're in a good spot.
Yeah,
well, like
okay,
that's kind of like
that's a nice place to be.
that's learning.
dude, like playing with both Jake and Erik, like in Rosetan, like you guys are such better guitar players than I am, but like never at one point have I felt like I don't belong. Like you guys.
Because I get that from you too. I'm and definitely don't think that influence doesn't glean influence from skill, because influence gets influence from any place at all. And like I see your patience and how you approach guitar, and how comfortable you are just making these big brash like bloom, just like a strum, and I'm like, I should do that.
Yeah.
I should just
Well,
do a strum.
like-
I should feel it out and take time and
Love
give
that.
my
I
brain
should do
space, you know, because
That's cool. That
it's
comes
real.
back to what I've said like 90 times on this podcast so far. It's just like what we all bring individually to what Rosetan is. It's just like we all bring an individual piece to it. And like I think a big part of what I bring into it is just like a mood.
I think you
you
bring
know?
peace, man.
Well, so what you guys bring to it for me is like that sense of responsibility carries to me, like where I see you guys succeeding, in my opinion, in your personal lives, or like how you carry yourselves, or how you speak to me, or like on the beach trip, like we had a really cool emotional conversation and stuff, and I kind of like let out some stuff, and it was just like a really nice moment, and like that's the stuff that you can provide beyond music, and that's community deeper than I think a scale could do, you know.
Because we're all there for the purpose of kind of this idea of like, hey, we're gonna play music together, but then that comes with its own expectations, and then if you're willing to feed into that, it kind of demonstrates your character, because whether you're good or not, it's like, how much character do you want to show? And like that's still a hard point for me, is like being able to be vulnerable, you know. But I just feel so blessed.
Do you think playing this music on stage and like the level of emotion is helping you get to is helping feed some vulnerability?
I think so.
Or is it- or pointing you
I
towards that at least?
absolutely think so. I think it's giving me more of an opportunity to just exist in kind of my own space without expectation. Not that like any of my other endeavors make me feel like I have an expectation, but
No, but it's just different.
I've started this, like I joined Rosetan in a point in my life where maybe I had more knowledge on what I should be looking for when I join something, and when I initiate something, and it's just like a point of judgment, and like I felt really cool about the group of people that I was working with, and I still do after all these months, you know. It's like the two of you guys and you, Jake Ryans, I mean, it's a solid group of people.
I had a friend that I really respect musically after our our third show was at Antidote, I think, and had a friend come up to me, and he's like, "Hey man, I've been watching you do music for like 8 or 9 years now. I gotta tell you, the team and the people that you have around yourself right now, it just seems like this is the best situation." It just like, and
He
it
just gets it right.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean like, oh, it doesn't mean that we're gonna make it. It doesn't mean that we're gonna be famous. It means that creatively, someone that I respect agrees with that. Like we're on the right track. I don't really care about if we're on the right track in a year. I care about we're on the track right now. You know, I do care that we're on right now, but like in the future. But you know, the only type of looking into the future that I want to do is booking out future dates and then continue to work on ourselves in the current timeline to like be better when we get up to those shows, right?
Which is what you guys are doing heavy. I mean, you have Eric as a band leader. You have taken. I mean, this is probably more inside scoop than most people really care to share. But you have taken as a band leader. You've been just sending out all these emails. Like you guys don't have a manager, is the thing.
No,
like you don't have like there's little things where I'll help in like dorky ways, but I'm not your manager or anything. Like you're handling all this, like the songwriting and everything. Like
Oh, thanks, man.
So
Thanks
dude, it's huge. Well, because a huge thing that you're doing, because you'll text me separate from the group, and we'll talk through these things, because it's a lot of weight that you put on, and it's a lot of weight that needs to be put on though.
Yeah.
You wear a very heavy vest, but it's the appropriate vest. It's what this band needs. And so you are the one who emails these venues and you say, hey, we're a band and we do this and here's what's up.
Yeah.
You do these things, and then you come back to the group master and you say, hey boys, like the Jakes are at work, and you text them and say, hey, I got us booked here and I got us booked here, and before you know it, you have like a huge Pacific Northwest tour going on.
Right.
You know, so taking on all these things and expanding them. Are you, Erik? How do you think you're forming into this role of being a mentor and teacher yourself? I mean,
it's something that like, it's something where, like in my line of work, being like at the after school program, with Parks and Rec, or working with children, like as a paraeducator and stuff like that. There is like that gave me like a different, lighter sense of responsibility in other areas where my personal life needed to improve. And it's kind of a no-duh thing. Like if your personal life improves, your creative life flourishes too. But I just like wasn't doing that.
I definitely agree.
Yeah.
This being in this group and being in the career like as a paraeducator as well is like has matured me so quickly. Like at 24 years old, like being in the career path I'm going towards, and then like being in this group as well, has been like definitely been like, especially it all comes back to community. It's like, how do you want people to view you?
Seriously,
It really does.
How do you want people to view you? And Erik and I went out to dinner the other night, and he said something that really stuck with me, and it was just like, I want to be those guys that can go into a place and people recognize us and be like, oh, those guys are really cool. Those guys are really sweet.
Yeah, like because like the sense of community is beyond the music. Like I like when, like we go to that, like there's a block, like there's a bar a block away from here that we go to regularly, and like being nice with those employees regularly, and like we can walk in at any hour and it's like, a little like we like those guys.
These are the musicians with the producer who lives down the road.
It's important to me. Like I like, and they like us, right? There's different local places we go to, and they're like that we we're hugging the staff when we walk in because they like us and stuff. There's only a couple spots, but going back to what you were saying and asking earlier and stuff, what I would say is, as far as like the leadership part, the type of teachers that I've had a lot of good models on how to lead well musically. Being a part of that stuff, underneath some really talented people in Seattle, and working in some larger scale things musically that were much bigger than me, helped me see tools and things necessary, like okay, like basically how it's made. You know what I mean?
Columbus.
And then learning with quality control to kind of put it into scale and perspective here, right? And then with that, I think the best way that I became a band leader here was when I started being like fully honest with myself, right? I think I had to let go of a lot of personal things. I had to let go of a sense of loneliness and abandonment and put my self-worth into what I'm doing here. I had to let go of a love of, different people over here and channel that love into, like you say, I sent a bunch of emails. That night was, those few days were days where I could have just sulked, but instead of sulking and slipping back a little bit, it's like, no, this love that I feel like I deserve to put into a person, I can put that into the work I do with this band and this music. That's just as important to me. It's just as important.
You can channel it somewhere else.
Absolutely.
You don't have to just feel the sorrow of not having it. You can put it somewhere else.
And there's all sorts of loss and hurt and confusion, and no matter where you're at personally right now with whatever's going on, you are absolutely worthy, and the way you're feeling currently is valid, and it absolutely does get better. And sometimes to get better, you have to take responsibility.
Oh yeah.
And I think for me, taking responsibility of past actions, knowing how I've messed up in the past and trying not to do that again. I've messed up past musically too, like in some business facets where it's like, okay, so I don't do that again, right?
Yeah.
So you take all these things.
Don't want to do it again.
Right. You take the business things, you take the personal things, you take the musical things, and you always you want to always put all this stuff back into it. Everything that you're learning from different people it's part of a toolbox that you have. The hard part is making sure you're grabbing the right tool for the right thing. And sometimes, but that's learning is when it doesn't happen.
Yeah, dude, and I think that's something that we're making it pretty apparent, whether you're even trying to or not. I just realized as we're talking about this is like, if there's any new listeners in our inherit music community, and maybe you haven't made the right decisions or you haven't done the right thing. Like, it's like, dude, we're with you. Like, or if you're going through it and you're like, I don't know how to get these feelings into words, like, dude, keep going. Yeah. We're with you. We've been there. Absolutely. Yeah. I think that, like, just knowing, the vulnerability of all of us having gone through these things and having to channel our energy in different ways and kind of being, like I've had my fair share of suck. I'm sure we all four have.
Suck, man.
I think just knowing it can get better and knowing you are the one who can make it better.
Art is
There's a community waiting for you.
Art is so weird. Art is so weird, man. Like, in that sense, is like, I've had a couple things that I've put onto my solo SoundCloud where I'll be like, wow, I put my whole heart and soul into this, and it gets like 8 plays, and then I'll just like put something out and people will be like, wow, I love that one. Hey, my buddy said this is his favorite song. And like, it's an incredibly weird thing as an artist. Like, you're kind of stuck in like this mousetrap almost. It's just like, well, do I continue doing what my soul says is right? Or do I continue doing what people like to hear?
I think I definitely think it's both, man. I think it's like a tempering of steel, because each song we release, we like to look at it as like this kind of epitomizing moment, or like it's like the crux, or the apex, but
as opposed to a stop on the road.
It just harkens back to that hype culture of like how everything that you do has to be, like measured on the wall. Like you're like 3 foot 2 inches. God forbid. Let's grab the pen and go stand up against the door frame. Like it's just not that big of a deal. Like we need to focus
it's a thing
more
you've been trying
on
to work through
create.
That finally came into human words.
Yeah.
To the real world.
One thing I put into perspective about how small I am is I love watching Your Mom's House podcast. It's like the podcast Tom Segura has with his wife Christina P.
Wonderful stand-up comedians.
And I feel like super funny. And there's a side podcast he has with Bert Kreischer called Two Bears One Cave. And they talk about, like, Bert Kreischer made this point, and they like laughed at this forever. He's like, and this put it in perspective what numbers really are. And he says, because these guys are like very famous, but even celebridom, bottom tier. And they said, and Bert Kreischer goes, isn't it crazy that people with 50,000, big number, right? Isn't it weird that people with 50,000 followers actually think they're influencers? That sentence fucked me up, dude.
Okay, wait. Look at this number, Eric. Look at this number right here. This number on my wall.
He's a hype man. Bert Kreischer will sit there and talk about how he's fucking Vladimir Putin's like fucking doorman, and how he gets first class train rides.
It's not about his comedy,
but it's about how he tells stories, and he definitely I mean, like, he makes funny points, but they exist inside the reality of the stories that he tells.
Sure, but this wasn't a story. This was just a point where like they were talking about like Instagram models, or who like they feel like they deserve. Like they got 50,000 followers, therefore they should have this kind of a status and this and that. Yeah. And it's like, isn't it weird? Because they have like maybe 250 to 300,000 followers. So they're saying that their influence, even with that amount of followers, is not as great as they think. So 50,000 ain't shit.
So you think you have to have more, but it makes you wonder, like, what's the weight of that following that you have? Because like we've talked about with Rosetan having such a small amount of followers, it's not intentional quantity.
Not at all. Right.
It's quality, because the most important thing still, no matter what, is this word of mouth when you're in the moment and when someone says, let's fucking go. I'll never forget when one of my friends up in Bellingham got offended because a lady touched him at Caps. And so he left the bar and said, I'm going to Nappy Roots. So he runs all the way over to the Wild Buffalo to buy a ticket to Nappy Roots so he can get away from the group. And I'm like, hey, come back, buddy. And he's like, hey, I'm buying your ticket. So we both went and saw Nappy Roots. And it was totally random. It never would have happened.
To somebody who doesn't know what anything you just fucking said, that made no sense.
Evaluate your circumstance.
Okay, evaluate your circumstance. Okay, like your importance.
Don't be selfish.
Don't be selfish. Evaluate your importance.
Amen.
My point being is that we get caught up in numbers, And so it was nice to see that the line of 50,000, even though it looks big to me, still ain't shit. Meaning that it's important, like you said, to have an impact with what you have, right? Like we have maybe like 10 to 15 people that have come to all 3 shows,
which is wonderful. We appreciate you. And
oopsie. There's a like at our second show number 2, right? Our music has only been out since the acoustic EP came out in August. Okay, people were like, not a lot, 2 to 4 people were singing some of our lyrics to like 2 of our songs, and that's when I was like, oh, like that's like a real like listener and follower. It's like,
That's
okay,
a good amount.
yeah. Well, for your second show and for a little town like Longview, like that's great. That's awesome, man. And so it's about building off of that and stuff and having people. This music is not like super bouncy and poppy, and it's not like everyday tunes. But I want it to be something serious enough where it's like they can check in with that. It's real. Like this isn't meant to be bubbly poppy. You gotta love this, but I do believe that even if you don't like the kind of always emotional stuff, I guarantee you'll be into how this performance is. Because of what we're bringing to the table.
About it.
We bring it.
Yeah, because I feel like we're all being genuine. I feel like we're all disciplined in the moment, which is for me like something that I really value about this experience is like an aspect of discipline where like I almost have to like conform, and it's more in a musical sense, and it's cool because I have an open mind to that, and because I just want to understand what it takes to do that, you know, in this setting, and I think it's really cool. I think other people value that as well because it's not as put together as they'd expect it to be.
Well, it's like you and Jake Carrol have been taking direction really well in the sense of like I'll come like with the acoustic EP stuff. Like I think we crammed like 3 rehearsals into like a week and a half, like into a week before our first show because I wanted to like learn those songs and get them hammered down, and like you guys had tendencies of your own previous influences, and I had a goal and stuff of like what I had in my head. So we either found a compromise or we discovered a new sound, or you guys were able to kind of pick up what I was showing.
And that's the discipline aspect of it is just because that's what you have to do playing in an orchestra or playing in a jazz band is someone has to put something in front of you, and you have to be able to understand that. Like sight reading is such a high expectation of, and that's not a skill that I have.
See, like I come from a choir background, so like as from like I think I was in choir from like 5th grade up until high school. So like even though I was very young and like middle school, obviously. Like whatever, you know, you're young. It's still like musically, it was very forming to me to be like somebody who knows what the music is supposed to sound like. To be like, no, you need to be playing a D here. You need to be singing like a D note here. And then for me to be like, well, I don't know for sure, but I'll sing a D. And then when we're all singing, like this translates into Rosetan very well. When we're all playing, I'm playing a D. I'm like, oh, that's why I'm playing the D there. Because when we're all playing together, this goes back to the vibe we were talking about earlier. It's just like we definitely have to feed off of each other.
I think so.
Like and especially lack of like a air quotes here full band. Definitely, I think our strength here is our ability to sort of roll with the punches and play off of each other when we play music.
And collective vulnerability that you guys have been willing to go on that ride with me. One thing that I'm really happy about being comfortable as friends with you guys is that one thing that I knew I wanted and had to do. Like, and this is like from the early stages of creating this, and this is why that beach trip is like I knew that I wanted to get you guys bought in, and to buy into this means I had to be vulnerable. I wanted to be honest about what I'm going through as a person, current, past, and forward and future. And I want you guys to be able to put whatever you're going through emotionally into this as well. So that when we're playing, it's like, because you guys aren't going through the same stuff I am, but I want you to still channel emotion. So it's like, when was the last time you felt this way though? And then you can kind of put yourself there on stage and go through that with me. And I think that's something that like being able to present that vulnerability musically, I think is one of the maybe not contagious, but like attractive things about Rosetan Live, I think, is that like we did a show with Alpine Grace and a bunch of other really Johnny Franco. Silver Hill.
He's in Portland this week.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Man.
Yeah. He's a really good guy, dude. We got some stuff coming with him in February and March.
That's good news.
And anyway, some other bands too. I can't remember the rest of them now, unfortunately. But we were like the only band without a drummer there. But like the goal is to like, okay, so like we can scream then. We can bring heavier energy. We can do some wild stuff.
It worked out pretty well too. Like, I mean, honestly, just like having 3 people, just like, I mean, Erik is so unabashedly just like, I'm gonna put it out there, like, you know, and that's great because you don't want someone doing that who's afraid to do that.
No,
Right,
absolutely
dude.
not.
Dude,
Because
people know. If
that's
you're
a
not confident,
disaster,
the
man.
crowd knows. They feel it. They're like, this motherfucker is not giving it his all. And we could feel that.
Right.
And Erik
And it's like
Nordin
you could
gives
tell
it his
he's
all, dude.
You
And-
can
and
tell
it's
he's
a-
giving it
it's
his
a-
all.
Dude, it's an emotion. It's something that there's not words for. It's something that you're like, oh, I know that this dude, this is his peacock feathers. This is his lion's roar. Like, this dude is doing what he does. Fuck yeah. And you know that. And Erik, you do that. And guys like Jake and Jake, you both just like,
Guys like the Jakes.
you guys just glance at each other. And I know I said it at the beginning, but you guys just glance at each other and you're like, I get it. And Erik says, do this with his eyes. And you say, I know what you mean. And you just do it. And it just comes out so
One of
great.
my favorite moments, and you were there for it. I think it was like the first Antidote show where there's a song. It's the 3rd song on the acoustic EP. And there's a lot of great. That's probably one of our favorite ones to do live because the guitar parts are a little more intricate there. We're all doing some cool stuff that creates a nice melodic orchestration. And there's one part where, so Jake Wilson plays lead throughout most of the set, and I kind of hold down the core of the song with some finger picking or some good chords, just like with good full tone to keep this moving. And every once in a while, I take solo's kind of the wrong term. It's kind of the same thing every time, but I guess it's a solo, yeah. And it felt so good the first time that after the chorus where we're supposed to end it, I was like, let's do the instrumental again. And
Was this some Better Off Broken?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe it was Better Off Broken,
Yeah.
actually. Yeah, a spontaneous. Oh, that was at the Eagles. I did a
Yes.
spontaneous solo in a song that I
Yeah.
don't solo in. Right, okay. Yeah.
But
It
no
always
words.
feels
He
good
didn't
in that
say.
one.
He
Yeah,
didn't
look,
say,
yeah.
"Hey, I'm gonna solo here."
Yeah, I just started doing it, and they were
Alright.
like, "Oh, we keep playing and we do not stop." And there was no stopping and awkwardness. Like it's because you play with each other enough. You have to rehearse, you have to practice, you have to put in these hours that make these things feel effortless. Like DJing, you have to put in the hours to make it feel effortless when you're out there.
It translate in like this uncanny way to a practice regime that you might
Almost,
have,
yeah.
where like you get home and you get yourself in this practice regime and you're like, I'm gonna do this, but then you feel like that applies outside of that practice regime. You feel it manifesting almost, and you're like, this regime is finally like becoming part of actually how this is executed.
Yeah,
and not just how I do it.
The things that I practice in private are now
Right.
coming up, like without me even trying on stage.
That's one
I'm
of my
able to
favorite
look this
things.
guy in the eye and say, and he's able to say like, "Hey, that thing that you learned 7 weeks ago in your basement by yourself, you're gonna bring that out right now." And you say, "Yep, got it."
Wow, beautifully put, Jake. That's like so much of the magic that like we put into the rehearsals is just like we spend so much time rehashing and redoing the same thing over and over and over and over again to the
never
point
do
where
it
like
that way.
to like yeah to the point where it's just almost like it's like, wow, I don't want to play these 4 chords again ever again. And then like we pull it out during a live show and we see people bobbing along with us and we're like, that's
It gives it life
that's
again.
why.
You know, 'cause,
That's
like,
why we do that.
And we've only been playing these songs for like a couple of months. Imagine people who have to like do a hit single for like a whole like career. You know what I mean?
Sounds so
like,
terrible.
Most people don't love their music that long. Most people are like,
There'd be a way to find it.
Yo,
There is
cutting
a way
crew.
to find loving your music forever, though. I feel like
Oh, I mean,
somebody
there's
has
definitely a
somehow
way.
found a way.
oh, of course. No,
To me, I get sick of shit way too quick. But
I think you can love your own music. I think it's about like performing it, where it's like it does like become it loses its luster sometimes, you know. But I'm like kind of over some of the songs we're already doing, mainly because like I'm not in the mental space that I was when I wrote them, and I don't want to like drag myself back. But at the same time, it's songs that like that people don't know. Like what's important about like the thing about Rosetan and having it not be my name is like not everyone knows who I am. That's listens to Rosetan. Therefore, not everyone knows the story. So the songs that are sad are still important to people who may need them right now.
Dude, like here's something incredible.
Maybe it's not important. Who cares?
It's
I like the songs.
like
We're gonna play 'em.
I hadn't heard. I think maybe I mentioned it earlier, but that one Prince song.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard it till like a month ago.
Really?
And some of these great songs that have come out in the world, I just haven't heard them until like months ago. You know, and some of them in the last few years. And it's amazing that we can have that ability to like just like feel like we've reached the end of the line. Like, this new thing came out. It's the coolest thing. Everyone's been listening to it. It's this Tame Impala shit. Or it's like some Ariana Grande. And boom, I can't get enough. And you feel like, I'm so dissatisfied. I'm so empty. Because this was the biggest thing that I had. But then you go and you find that someone made a song like 20 years ago or 20 or 30, like
Or like an album even, like you stumble upon an album, you're like, oh my god, I have 6 weeks of healing with this album now.
like okay, finding Steely Dan's Asia. But here's another thing was finding these are all classic rock, but Tears for Fears, Songs from the Big Chair, and then Christopher Cross, his album, whichever had Sailing, I think it was just a self-titled album. But this is all 80s music, man. And this has such an impact on me. But the thing is that music like that gave birth and rise to like artists like Toto who are still like permeating through
Africa.
Yeah, but even beyond that, man. It's amazing. Fucking Africa, it's a great song. All these musicians are fantastic because they're all putting themselves into something that they believed in, and like they all put that into like Michael Jackson. They made the Thriller album.
Right.
Toto.
They're okay. These people are timeless without attempting to be timeless.
Wow.
Because
Yeah.
they're just saying,
They were time.
it's how you have to create music. We have our goals are fucked up sometimes, dude. These people that you're talking about, Jake Wilson, aren't. They weren't trying to be the hottest right now.
No, they weren't. And you listen to them. You listen to Steve Lukather from Toto, and he's like one of the greatest guitar players and arrangers of all time. And he's just like, yeah, I'm just like fucking there. I love that shit. Just like I barbecue on Sundays. I watch football. And it's like, what the hell? What the hell? You what? Yeah. You?
It's so like it's interesting to have the wall of celebridom taken down in like a creative concept. Because the wall of celebridom makes you think, oh, they're up there and they had to do all that to make this, when in reality, the core of like writing something like is at the same core that you're starting something to for the most part. And it's like really like, and that's the cool thing about music and stuff like that. Now, I mean, granted, like with electronic production, like it is like stuff is changing and there's a future and stuff. But I do think that I don't know if it's getting more popular or my focus is more on it. But I feel like bands are kind of becoming cool again. And that's not why us being a band. That's like something that I just like want to have happen regardless of us being a band, right?
I think the instrumental influence is very important nowadays, and I think it's more influential because it shows people more of what they're capable of rather than what they think they're capable of.
I think people might be scared of instruments nowadays.
Yeah.
Well, because it takes time to sound good there, but in about a month you could have you can get a decent flow and put it like a
we're in
single
instant
on SoundCloud.
gratification, millennials, for example, like we want right freaking now. And,
I get it, man.
Instruments are long term, man. They
Yeah,
are like
I'm 12 years
There's
in.
a lot of hours that
12
go into
years.
playing guitar.
It's
There's a
also
lot of
it's
hours that go
also
into playing
financial
bass.
investment over
It
time.
is,
That's
and
the
it's
thing.
something you have to enjoy. Playing by yourself, like it's something that you have to enjoy just hanging out with yourself. Like, so if you don't even enjoy hanging out with yourself, you're definitely not going to enjoy the music, the
No.
instrument you're playing.
there's listen, guys, like I'm telling you guys right now, and I'm telling anybody that's like just picking up a guitar, piano, singing for the first time, there's been more times where I've put my guitar away pissed off than I have put it away satisfied.
What made you grab it back out though?
Wanting to get better,
Right?
Wanting to not put it away pissed off.
Not making that decision like this is forever, fuck guitar forever. You just put it away, man, whatever. And then when you felt that urge later, right? You
Yeah,
grabbed it again?
like just like even now, like like I'm 12 years into it. Like I was playing the other night and I was trying to learn something new and I just couldn't get it. And I was like, man, fuck this, I suck. And I put my guitar case away and I left it alone. I was playing guitar today. Like, you know?
Well, but there's all those complicated things you can learn, but the song you wrote is pretty simple with 2 chords. Maybe we'll add a third one in there and embellish it to the right level, and that's all that needs, right? But it's like having the tools though to make that decision and know that that's enough, and know that you could go other directions. Like I think, and I think one of the most important assets in music is like having restraint and knowing like that is enough as is. Going back to that Half Moon Run album, there's a lot of moments there where they have the perfect amount of restraint, or they have crazy embellishments, but the embellishments and things that are happening are low enough in the mix that they are not overwhelming. And I think that comes from also working with good producers and engineers who have ears, because sometimes the instrumentalists, they're the ones who are like, oh, I gotta crank up that part, I want to hear me more there. And it's like, I love that part, but it shouldn't be up front like that. No,
it's not the song.
It's like if you were a painter, just because you can paint 37 different colors doesn't mean every painting should have 37 different colors.
Some just need blue and pink, baby.
Yeah. Like a sunset is only like the most beautiful sunset you've ever seen in your entire life is probably only about 7 colors.
I mean, if you want to get super technical,
well, it's probably a lot. But like some of your favorite songs in the world are not incredibly complicated. Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
There's words in the emptiness.
Yes, exactly. It's like David Gil. Like if you listen to a lot of David Gilmour from Pink Floyd, like a lot of his most powerful solos aren't super fast and crazy and technical. He finds the feeling in the space.
I think another thing that people find charming in music, something I find charming, Stephen Tack pointed out to me, and I listened to on the Broken Record podcast a little bit, that I think there's something special about albums that don't come out too perfect, as far as like the Bon Iver stuff. He defines his music as the records always come out a little dusty and scratched, and I was like, whoa, yep, that's perfect. Haley Hendrix, dusty and scratched sound, like it's a very raw sound. Everything's mic'd and recorded that way intentionally. Didn't need any more processing. Boom, send it out. Lucy Dacus, she went from a pretty raw sound like that. Even her produced stuff has a nice amount of like desperacy to it and like necessity in the sense of recording.
Do you guys remember that one band from the 60s that was like these sisters? No, listen, their dad said, you guys are going to be something famous someday. But they were awful. And they sang a song about their cat, and it was terrible. And it was unlistenable, but then they gained a cult following among like indie listeners over the years. Someone back me up. Someone find out who this band is.
Jake, you are an incredible library of music. I said it like 3 hours ago, but like Jake Wilson will put you onto music that from a time period that you've never heard of.
Dude,
before.
his music taste never ceases to amaze me.
He is a
talks about an 80 artist. I'm like, I didn't see that coming.
He's a walking record store is what he is. He knows music.
I wish I could charge that much.
He's a walking music store. He is a music catalog in his brain, and he has put me on to so much music from time periods that I
Bless.
Wait, okay, I'm totally sorry to cut you off.
No, totally. Yeah. No, Jake Wilson has put me on to music from time periods that I thought I had heard everything from. And it'll be like, no, this song from the 70s, this artist from this album and this year. And I'm like, how have I never heard this? And why do I love it now? He's like, he'll come to me sometimes like
at the right time.
Yeah, it's just like sometimes just like in the rare occasion where we haven't seen each other in person in a week or so, he'll come up to me and be like, yo, I got this album from 75 from this band that I know you love. And I'll be like, how have I not heard this? How have I not heard this? Just some weird, obscure album from this incredibly famous artist. They're just an album that flew under the radar.
I don't know.
Wait, did you find that band you were just talking about?
I was looking for them. I feel like it's a really easy name, but for some reason they just don't make themselves apparent to me. It's gonna be like the
Dixie Chicks.
Yeah, probably like the Dixie Chits or like the freaking Tater Tots.
All right. So
We'll find
I
out
did
later.
want to say we didn't fully finish. I did want to wrap up here shortly, but I do want to say my album real quick, and then we'll go to Eric's. My album, I would say, we were saying earlier, if you guys.
Yeah, definitely your album.
Okay, so I had 2 albums.
Yep. Me too.
The first one is The Devil Makes Three. I forgot the name of the album, but the song is Chained to the Rhythm. I think I showed it a couple of you. But so the album Devil Makes Three, it's whatever the fucking album that Chained to the Rhythm is on. It's like a red album. It's great. And then also Holes in Our Stories by Dylan Owen, because I do a lot of like spoken word and poetry writing. And his is very like it's euphoric. It doesn't follow like any music theory. It seems like he doesn't care about quantization. He's writing like as the words come. It seems like so. It's
Devil Makes Three. Is that the band name?
Devil Makes Three is band name. Yeah.
What's the song?
Chained to the Rhythm.
Chained to the Rhythm.
It's the song that I particularly like.
Oh, Chained to the Couch.
Chained to the Couch. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Oh shoot, yeah, I totally misspoke. Chained to the Couch, but that whole album is great. And then also the second album was Dylan Owen, Holes in Our Stories, which is just so great. He's just a very original artist. He's like a spoken word poetry sort of guy. I did want to go to Erik though. I don't think did we get yours?
We haven't gotten Eric's yet.
Yeah, I do want to.
I would love to hear Eric's.
We're getting up here in time, so we'll round out a little bit after that. But I definitely want to get a good explanation of yours, Erik.
Yeah, I think 2 albums right now that are really and they've come in and out of my life a little bit. The number 1 album I normally hoard music and like don't share it with people because you share music with a girl you like and she breaks your heart and then you're like they like that music now and that sucks.
And
you share
an inch,
music
take
and
a
like all of a
mile.
sudden people that you don't really like care for, you see them posting about it and all of a sudden it doesn't feel as valid to you anymore. You know what I mean? So that's like I would hoard music.
So we should delete social
But
media.
That pretty much. But an album that I've been loving to share with people. If you like the band Daughter at all, I recommend looking up Palace. And the album is Life After. They're a band out of the UK.
Live Well. Great song.
Dude, absolutely.
Great lyrics.
There's something about like the whole entire album. It's easy to go through from start to finish. There's nothing offensive about any song sonically. Like you could listen to it very passively and enjoy that presence, or you could be so intent on every. Like I took time to listen to like all the guitar parts and headphones a couple of Saturdays ago, which was like a big Saturday for me, and I just heard a lot of stuff where I was like, it's like a lot of simplicity, but the simplicity comes together.
This might be good on like a long nighttime drive, maybe, or like a back road drive.
If you're from Longview,
I always come to practice listening to Palace.
oh, that's
nice.
a great way to get
Because
your.
it's
tone
like
ready for it,
like
yeah.
a 15-20 minute drive from my house to the studio.
Mhm.
And I'll put on Palace, kind of get in the mood. Like when I want to listen intentionally, I can listen intentionally.
Yeah.
When I want to listen passively, it's great.
Yeah, it's incredible, and I just think it's some of the best songwriting I've heard in a long time. And then, an artist who has 2 names, Geotic and Baths. But right now, I mean, in 2019, Geotic put out an album called Traversa that really changed my life and perspective on electronic music because I've kind of fallen out of love with a lot of it, but he's pretty original. But there's an album under his name, Baths, Baths, as weird as it sounds. And the album from 2017, Romaplasm. All the songs are almost like so high energy. It can be like borderline annoying, but the emotion he puts into something puts like a crazy texture, and his vulnerability and his lyricism and his perfect portrayal of what he's feeling and the absolute 100% originality. Nothing else is even close to what it sounds like. That's why I love Suicide Boys back in the day, because like when it came to underground rap, like there was nothing else that sounded like them, and now there's like a bunch of people imitating what they've done, right?
Their whole crew, though, I feel like they gained that original sound, though, like Puya and shit.
And it's well earned. It's not a negative thing by any means, but this there is no other genre that it's in, and I agree. It's similar to like what, and Bon Iver should be on that list. I was amazing, and it is one of the most important albums to me in my life. But right now, I'm listening to Romaplasm by Baths and Life After by Palace every day in its entirety, at least once.
Does I just have to say this sentence? Does the fact that so many people listen to Bon Iver give you faith in humanity as a whole?
Yeah. I think one of my favorite things is that
It's weird to me. Like,
but
I'm not kidding. I'm kind of joking, I guess, but I'm not.
there's a song that
music is
I
different.
love it. I love it.
There's a song that he wrote over the course of 5 years on that album, and 23 people worked on that song with him.
Which one was that?
I Am I, track 2.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
the thing about that song, man, within like when that song came out before the album and it was a single, 2 or 3 weeks, 25 million Spotify streams. This man took his originality and experimentation and he opened the door for that to become mainstream in its own self. The fact that he's selling out the Gorge Amphitheater, that kind of music, it's not an EDM thing. It's not Jack Johnson. It's not John Mayer, like who have like filled those kind of venues. This is something that is inherently sonically weird and is and on his end intentionally this way. And we have he's built an insanely large community and following that agrees. I'm just trying to have people agree with what we're doing.
Do you think, at what point in Bon Iver's career was he similar to where you guys are at as Rosetan?
His first album or before?
Yeah, he talks about how for Emma, he went to his dad's hunting cabin. He went to college as a jazz major, and he played in a band all the way up until his mid-20s, and then he quit, and that was a very like naked feeling for him. And so he went to a cabin, to his dad's hunting cabin with like a small, very small little Pro Tool like console, not a computer, a console, and one mic. And he stayed there for 3 months, and he wrote that entire album, and he won a Grammy for it. Okay.
Holy shit.
Why don't more people do that?
Because people
'Cause it's
have
hard.
insane misconceptions because of idolization, envy, and envy and raw jealousy without proper information.
I think it has less to do with that and more of a lack of realization of what kind of life they're living. I mean, because anybody could realize their true potential in this life and do something fantastic, like make a record or fucking own property or clean up the bay, but they just don't. And I don't get it. And it's just a sincere lack of putting themselves to it.
Yeah.
With the amount of people that I've met who just have such fantastic talent.
Yeah, Jake, this totally brought me back to something that Erik told me a few weeks ago, and it has stuck with me, and I've thought about it ever since he said it. Erik was like, yeah, you can love people, and you can, like, we talk about love a lot as a band and, like, all the different kinds of love, and, like, how you can, you love your bandmates, you love your family, you love your significant other, all in different ways. You can love people, and it's like, it's not about feeling, like, it's not always about just feeling love. It's about how you show it too.
Totally.
Totally how you show
It
it.
takes work sometimes.
Yeah, it's work to show love. It's effort to show love.
Yeah.
To
Even
show
when you don't
whatever
want to
the
sometimes.
love may be, show it. Don't
Yeah.
just feel it.
That's something
show
that
it.
I have been. I think consistency is something I lacked in 2019. That's something I think I need to bring into my life in 2020 to become a better person in multiple areas. I think not being consistent in showing love is what's some of the downfall of like different personal things in 2019. And I think going forward, no matter what projects are in my life, no matter what people are in my life and stuff, consistency is how I can be a healthy, positive influence in those situations to those people.
Yeah. Like
So-
how do I show love to Jake Rhines, Jake Wilson, and Erik Nordin?
Right.
How do I show love to my mom and dad, my grandma?
Oh, and most importantly, how to show love to yourself too.
How do I
'cause
show love
that's
to
new
myself?
To me as well.
Not
That's-
just how do I
Yourselves is
feel it,
like
how do I show
a
it?
good cookie batter or like a pie.
Sure.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do you distribute that consistency?
Really, really quick.
Because you
not,
really have to, so that everyone gets a good slice of that.
not to do it publicly, but we do it in the group text. Just band check-in. How's everyone doing?
Yeah.
Yes, all the time.
You doing okay?
All the
No,
time.
how are you doing right
You're
now?
doing-
Everyone doing
I'm-
good?
I do great.
You doing okay in life? You feeling good?
Yeah.
Feeling happy
Yeah.
about where you're at?
How's everybody's Saturday going? Hey, hope everybody has a good Tuesday.
Good thing
Right.
it's
Yeah.
month day.
What?
What day is it today?
I don't know.
Is it
I think it's
Sunday?
Monday.
Well,
Still?
I mean, in a couple hours, it'll be New Year's Eve.
Really?
Oh, hey.
Holy shit.
Well, hey, that's a great place to end on the new year.
I
So
agree.
going into the new
Yeah.
year, I think that we dropped a lot of important things. I think the essence of what we all talked about on this podcast. This was kind of the thing is I wanted to have these guys over here to, of course, do like, who is Rosetan? Like what's the secret behind this band? Who is every song it seems like you guys are coming out with is super good. So there's a lot of like new listeners. There's a lot of like new uptick. So that was kind of the excitement of it. But overall, I think the important thing that we did here and accomplished very well is you guys are just some dudes.
We're just
some-
dudes.
Just some
We're guys
wonderful
being
human
dudes.
beings who
No
are
secrets
who are
here.
just trying to just live a fulfilled, wonderful life. And for that, it's for you guys that happens to be with music, and like seeing you guys all grow so freaking much over such a short amount of time. I mean, just as individuals, obviously as a band. Erik, I've known you for the longest. Like just seeing you as like one of my very close friends grow as like a band leader, but just as a man, like it's just so great.
Thanks,
and
man.
it really it's I love it too, buddy. And I love all of you guys, and I love the opportunities that you have given me by just coming here into my studio and just opening your hearts to this place down here, and just seeing what comes out of it. And I think that all four of us and a lot of the people who are in the ripples in our wake are going to pick up this torch that we're all saying we should pick up and say like, hey, there's people watching us, and there's people who are trying their heart out to do what they want to do. And by us doing what we think we should in these little moments and forming bands and forming communities, and making change within each of us, it's doing something real. So I
just want to say before Jake Rhines finishes that we wouldn't be able to do this very band on guest, wouldn't be able to do what they do without Jake Rhines opening up his generosity, being such a gregarious individual who supports this kind of forum and like open a medium for people to come and share their hearts and thoughts with others. And it's like a blessing that someone like him is here to step up and do that. And so, well, I mean, we're very grateful for you for like what you do and the role that you play in people's lives and wanting to learn more about them and wanting to teach others about where people are coming from.
Cool, thanks, man. Yeah.
For me personally, man, I mean, like it's you and me on the cover of that acoustic EP for a reason and stuff. It's like I didn't rebrand the art with Telus' stuff for a reason. I just think it's a very honest capture of like what, like you said, like you see me grow a lot, and it's like there's just been a lot of times where I've come to you with a lot of like grief or confusion, and whether you agreed with it or not, you just told me it was valid, and I think like it just gave me self-worth towards putting music in this area, and I think that's like what draws a lot of people to it and stuff. It's like you helped cultivate the honesty of what this is at its roots. You know what I mean? Like it started here, and it started with you and me in 24 hours trying to crank something out, man.
Yeah. I mean, we made a pretty good EP, and I hope that what we continue to do and what any listener continues to do within their community is realize that whatever you're doing does have roots, and those roots can be strong, and they can be authentic, and I think that I just want to continue to be proof and continue to expand the veins that spread from our hearts to our community.
Before we go, I gotta do a shameless plug of our dates
Not
going
a
into
shameless
January.
plug.
Not sure when this is coming out and stuff, but our first show of 2020 is January 3rd. We're at Antidote Tap House in Longview, Washington, with David Robbins and Mason John. The next show, January 11th, that's a Saturday. We're at Ashtown Brewing at Longview. Great local staple. We're playing with our friends in The Wildish. You heard a lot of conversation about that. Recommend you get out there to that one. January 14th. We're going to be doing like just some low-key acoustic stuff at Willie Dick's First Street Tap House in Kalama. Pretty cool spot. Not finalized yet, but in the workings, according to my friend Jacob Westfall, we could be playing the Tacoma McMinimans January 23rd. Right, another Jacob. January 23rd, Tacoma Elks Temple McMinimans. That's a question mark on that one. Be sure you follow us on social media at Rosetan Band, and that will be validated or erased soon. Then on January 24th, we're heading out to the eastern side of the state at Ellensburg. We're playing at The Pearl, a really cool stage above a bar. It looks exciting. My friend Matthew Usher is an awesome folk singer-songwriter out of Seattle, and he'll be joining us. And then the thing about the community that I'm really excited that we'll be doing, Rosetan is hosting an open mic at Antidote Tap House January 31st. Now, what this means is that there's going to be several 15-minute slots that we want you as artists or as musicians to please come fill time. And we're not going to be doing like a whole set. We'll do a couple songs in between 4 open micers and stuff. We want to hear you guys. You know what I mean?
What's the open mic? Is this just for like singers and stuff?
It's for anyone, man. It's for anyone. Yeah, spoken word, acoustic stuff. We'll have a piano set up there if you want to come and play keyboard. If you play any other instrument, come and show us that. This is your chance to just share what you do as an artist with the community and stuff.
And you'll be welcomed. You'll be welcome. Like honestly, just getting in front of other people.
That's what we're about. As Rosetan, that's what we're about.
Like get in front of a microphone and speak from your soul.
It's how I started.
Exactly.
It's exactly how I started, and I've been frustrated there hasn't been a music community. And I kind of have this realization where it's like, well, who else but us then?
Amen.
So please
Go
join
on
us
it.
on October 31st at Antidote Tap House for that. February date's coming up and being finalized soon. And we just really appreciate you guys so much. I am grateful that we were able to even book a full month like that of just have consistent work. And I'm grateful that I'm doing it with people that I love. And I'm grateful that you guys as listeners are tuning in here and elsewhere. If you want to hear our music, you can hear at rosetan.bandcamp.com. And on January 3rd at Antidote, we're also playing a brand new song that is unreleased. So we'd love to see you there for that. So we'll see you in 2020.
Love you guys.
Cheers. Love you, listener. Take care of yourself. This has been Jake Rhines and Rosetan.
Do good and be good.
Do good and be good. Junkyard Love Podcast out.